You can go down the mountain now. Those words hit me like a physical blow. 8 years. It had been 8 long, grueling years. Do you have any idea how I spent that time? This old man kidnapped me and dragged me to this desolate, God-forsaken mountain. He turned me into a savage. I spent 8 years eating tree bark and chewing on roots. Anything that moved within 5 miles, I ate. Anything that didn't move, I ate that too. Look at the trees around us. Every single one of them is stripped bare because of me. A light breeze blew past, and the old Taoist stood there, his eyes clouded white and a few stray strands of hair fluttering in the wind. He looked frail. Xiao Chun, he sighed. I know you hate me, but I'm about to leave this world to seek the path of immortality. If I can't cross that threshold, my time is up. You are the only disciple I've ever taken. You are my pride. In just 8 years, on an earth where spiritual energy is almost dead, you reached the golden core stage. Even I wasn't that fast. You are the greatest talent I've seen in centuries. Old man, don't think I'm grateful just because you taught me cultivation, I spat back. You wasted 8 years of my youth. My girlfriend is probably someone else's wife by now. And my parents. I can't even imagine what they went through when I disappeared. Now you tell me I can leave? How are you going to give me back those 8 years? The old man just shook his head. I know you're angry. I was harsh because it was for your own good. One day, you'll understand. Whether you admit it or not, you are my disciple. I hope we meet again. You're free now. The formation holding you here is gone. Go. He turned his back, looking small and lonely in his tattered robes. It was hard to believe this blind old man was the only other cultivator on earth besides me, a master at the tribulation transcendent stage. He was a walking legend who could summon storms or wipe out a nation with a wave of his hand. But why? Why did he trap me here for 8 years? I respected him, but I hated him too. Before I could get an answer, his body blurred into an afterimage and vanished into the sky. Memories flooded back. 8 years ago, I was just a student. I saw this old man on the street looking like a beggar, and I felt sorry for him. I gave him some cash. That same night, while I was dreaming, he snatched me away. The first 3 years were spent learning alchemy. The 4th year was medicine. Then he gave me a manual called The Profound Heaven Secret Path and told me to practice. He only checked on me once a year. He wasn't worried about me slacking off because his formations ensured there was no food nearby. If I didn't cultivate to absorb spiritual energy, I would have starved to death. His brutal methods worked. I didn't just survive, I thrived. I was now a golden core cultivator. In a world where magic was returning, I would be a powerhouse. But right now, I didn't care about power. I needed to go home. I moved like a shadow, flying through the air. Half an hour later, I landed in a small town in Tianhai City. I stood in front of a familiar villa. My heart hammered against my ribs. Tears blurred my vision. Mom, Dad, little sister, are you okay? I'm back. I gathered my courage and rang the doorbell. Ding dong, ding dong. After a moment, the door swung open. It wasn't my family. A large, thuggish man with a fat face and a gold chain stared at me. He looked annoyed. Where did this stinking beggar come from? He barked. Asking for food at my door? You want to die? Get lost before I lose my temper. A wave of cold fury washed over me. This was my house. Who was this man? My aura flared up, sharp and deadly. The man, a local thug named Fei Biao, didn't realize who he was dealing with. He swung a massive fist at my face. When his fist was inches away, I moved. I caught his hand in my palm. Arg! I squeezed. The sound of a pig being slaughtered filled the air. I stepped into the villa, dragging him by his crumpled fist. Ow, ow. Let go. Let's talk, he screamed. I didn't let go. I increased the pressure. Sweat poured down his face, and his massive frame shook with pain. The people who lived here before, I said, my voice like ice. Where are they? Tell me, or you die. Fei Biao looked into my eyes and froze. He had been a thug for 20 years, but he had never seen eyes like mine. To me, he was an ant. He knew I wasn't joking. Big brother, you mean the Xiao family? How do you know about them? They died years ago. This house was given to me to pay off their debts. The world stopped. What? My parents are dead? It felt like a lightning bolt had struck my heart. No, it couldn't be. They were healthy. They were fine. The pillar of hope that had kept me going for 8 years crumbled instantly. The grief turned into an explosion of power. A shockwave erupted from my body, the air around me crackling and popping. Fei Biao didn't even know what hit him. He was sent flying 10 meters back, slamming into a wall, and coughing up blood mixed with bits of his internal organs. He scrambled toward me, trembling, his face pale. "Big brother, please. I have money. Just give me a number. I'll pay you." I didn't want his money. I kicked him over and slammed my foot onto his chest, pinning him to the floor. "Tell me everything," I growled. "What happened to the Xiao family?" I don't know much," he stammered, gasping for air. "I just took the house. 8 years ago, Mr. Zhao's son suddenly went missing." Fei Biao stammered, his voice trembling. "After that, they lost the heart to run the business. Their company was suppressed and went bankrupt. I was actually kind enough to lend them money to get through the hard times. When I couldn't get my money back, I took the house. That's all I know, I swear." I glared at him, my eyes burning. "How did they die?" "Big brother, their deaths had nothing to do with me," he shrieked. "Whenever I sent my boys to collect the debt, we were polite. We never used violence. Then, 6 years ago, my guys showed up and the place was empty. I asked around and found out Mr. and Mrs. Xiao had died in a car accident." The words hit me like a physical blow. My heart felt hollow, like it had turned to ash. I let go of him, my fists clenching so hard my knuckles cracked. A roar of pure, agonizing grief ripped from my throat. I collapsed to my knees right there in the villa, tears streaming down my face. "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry," I sobbed. "I'm so sorry." Fei Biao stared at me, realization finally dawning on him. This beggar, crying on the floor, was the Xiao family's long-lost son. "Big brother, listen to me," he said, crawling closer. "Your parents' death really wasn't my fault. It was the Li family here in Tianhai City. They were the ones suppressing your parents' company. You should go ask them." The Li family. I knew them. One of the 4 great families of Tianhai City, local tyrants. I ground my teeth, the grief turning into a cold, sharp blade of rage. I would find out who killed them, and I would make them pay 100 times over. But there was someone else. "My sister," I growled, planting my boot back onto Fei Biao's chest. "Where is my sister?" I can't breathe." He wheezed. I realized I was crushing his ribs again, but I didn't care. "Tell me. I'll tell you." "Just don't kill me," he begged. "After your parents died, a big shot from Tianhai City came. He said he was an old friend of your father's. He took the girl away." "Tang Hai," I muttered. The name came to me instantly. He was my father's brother-in-arms. They had survived war together and remained best friends after retiring. I remembered him holding me when I was a kid. If she was with him, she was safe. I looked down at the pathetic man under my boot. "I'm going to find the truth, Fei Biao. If I find out you had anything to do with their deaths, I'll make you pray for the end." I left him alive for now and walked out. I had to find my sister. Behind me, once I was out of sight, Fei Biao scrambled up and grabbed his phone. His face was twisted with pain and malice. "Hello, young Master Wen? It's Fei Biao. That brat from the Xiao family. He's back." A cold, mocking laugh came through the speaker. "A loser who's been gone for 8 years. Why are you calling me about him? Send someone to reunite him with his parents. Do it cleanly this time. Don't let the cops catch the scent like last time." "But Wengu, this kid is a monster. He almost killed me today." "A monster?" The voice laughed harder. "I love playing with monsters. He'll probably head to Tianhai to find his sister. I'll be waiting to have some fun with him. No one I target leaves Tianhai alive." I walked through the streets of the city, feeling like a ghost. Everything was familiar, yet strange. The lights were brighter, the buildings taller. Life was moving on for everyone else. Why did it have to be like this for my family? "Mom, Dad, I miss you," I whispered. A screech of tires snapped me out of it. A car stopped inches from me. A woman in a black uniform jumped out, looking panicked. "Sir, are you okay?" I didn't answer. I just kept walking, my mind 1,000 miles away. She stared at my face, a look of confusion crossing her features. I looked familiar to her, but she couldn't place it. When she saw I wasn't hurt, she got back in her car. Suddenly, I pulled the door open and sat in the passenger seat. "Take me to Tianhai City." "What?" "Sir, I'm on my way to work. I'll be late." I didn't say a word. I reached into my coat and tossed a thick stack of cash onto her lap. I had taken Fei Biao's dirty money before leaving. The woman's eyes nearly popped out of her head. That was more than 2 months' salary. All right then. Buckle up, sir. This lady is going to fly. She probably thought I was some eccentric rich guy playing at being a beggar. I didn't care. As the engine roared and we sped off, my heart raced. How could I face my sister? She probably hated me for leaving. An hour later, we pulled up to a mall in Tianhai. I needed to change. I couldn't meet her looking like a vagrant. I went inside, bought a simple set of casual clothes, and cleaned myself up. Looking in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The long hair and stubble were still there, but at least I looked human again. When I walked back out, the woman was still waiting. "Why haven't you left?" I asked. She leaned out the window, studying my face. "Sir, can I ask your name? You look exactly like someone I knew 10 years ago." "Xiaochen, is that you?" "It's me, Shin Feifei, your high school classmate." "You have the wrong person," I said coldly, getting back in. "Take me to the Tang residence, then you can go." I wasn't in the mood for reunions. Shin Feifei looked unconvinced, but she started driving. She kept trying to trigger my memory, listing names of old classmates. I ignored her, staring out the window, until she mentioned one name. "Suya." I stiffened. My brow furrowed as the memories rushed back. "Suya, how has she been these years?" The car suddenly jerked as Shin Feifei slammed on the brakes. Shin Feifei looked at me, her eyes wide with excitement. "I knew it. I knew you were Xiaochen. Why did you try to hide it? Look at you, still trying to play it cool." I looked at her coldly. What if I am? What if I'm not? It's been so long. Who would even remember me? I turned my gaze back to the window. "Let's go. I don't want to talk about the past. I have important things to do." Shin Feifei went quiet, but I could feel her staring at me. She probably couldn't reconcile the man sitting in her car with the bright, cheerful boy she knew in high school. I wondered if she was asking herself what could possibly change a person this much. "Xiao-chun," she said softly. "Let's exchange numbers. I know you might want to forget all of us, but I know you haven't forgotten Suya." After graduation, we all went our separate ways. I haven't heard from her in a long time, but if I get any news, I'll tell you immediately. "I don't have a phone," I replied flatly. It didn't matter. It had been too long. Maybe I shouldn't disturb her life anyway. Shin Feifei wasn't having it. She insisted we stop, dragging me into a store to buy the latest smartphone. Only after she saved my number in her contacts did she look satisfied. She drove me the rest of the way and dropped me off in front of the Tang residence. With a quick wave, her Buick sped off and disappeared around the corner. I stood before the villa. My father had mentioned Tanghai before. He ran a medicinal herb business in Tianhai. He wasn't at the level of the elite families, but he was a well-known merchant. Finding his place hadn't been hard. I pressed the doorbell. After a moment, a well-dressed woman opened the gate. She looked at my messy hair and strange clothes with confusion. "Who are you looking for?" "Auntie, it's me. I'm Xiao Chun." She froze. It took her a long time to process the name. "Chenu? You're Xiangyang's son?" "Chenner." Her face washed over with shock. Old Tang, come out here quickly. What's all the shouting about?" Tang Hai walked out, looking annoyed until he saw me. He blinked, clearly confused by my appearance. "Old Tang, he says he's Xiao Chun." "What? You're Chunner." Tang Hai rushed forward and grabbed my hands, his eyes searching my face. "Uncle Tang," I said, my voice thick. "I'm sorry. I'm back. It really is you. Oh, my boy, you're finally home." Tang Hai pulled me into a fierce hug. I could feel him shaking. His eyes turned red with tears. "Old Tang, let the boy inside first," his wife urged. "We can't just stand out here." Right. Come in, Chinner." Tang Hai didn't let go of my hand. He held on tight, as if he was afraid this was a dream and I would vanish the moment he let go. "You must be hungry," his wife said, smiling through her own tears. "Andy will go cook something for you." My own eyes were stinging. For 8 long years, I hadn't felt this kind of warmth. "Thank you, Andy." While she hurried to the kitchen, Tang Hai sat me down. He looked at my rugged appearance and sighed. "You've suffered these years, haven't you? You silly child, why didn't you come home? Do you know I've been waiting every single day for you to return?" "I'm sorry, Uncle Tang. I really am. I was trapped in a place. I only managed to escape recently." "Well, you're back now. That's all that matters," he said, patting my hand. From now on, your auntie and I are your parents. I'll see you get married and have kids. You stay here with us. Don't you ever leave again. He paused, his expression turning solemn. About your parents. I'm so sorry, Chinner. I was useless. I couldn't protect them. It's not your fault, Uncle Tang, I said, my voice turning cold. I will find the people who killed them myself. Child, the dead can't come back. The most important thing is for you to live a good life. That's the only way your parents will find peace. I don't want you living for revenge. Do you understand? I know, Uncle Tang. Don't worry. I took a breath, trying to steady my heart. Where is my sister, Xiao Xinyan? I heard you took her in. Yes, he nodded. After your parents passed, we brought her here. We've raised her like our own daughter. But she's never really moved on from the trauma. She should be home from school any minute now. You two can finally be together again. My sister. She was only 8 when I left. She must be a young woman by now. For the first time in years, a genuine smile touched my lips. Just then, I heard the front door open. I stood up instantly, my eyes locked on the entrance. A girl appeared, wearing a white school uniform. It was her. It was Xinyan. Tears finally rolled down my cheeks. Xinyan looked at me, a stranger in her living room. Confusion crossed her face. Then slowly, she began to recognize the features buried deep in her memory. Her expression shifted from confusion to pure shock. I stepped toward her, my hands trembling. Xinyan, brother is back. She froze. Then, her face twisted with a sudden, sharp anger. Brother? Do I have a brother? Why did you bother coming back? She shoved my hands away, her eyes brimming with tears. I don't have a brother. She turned and ran to her room, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. I stood there, paralyzed. My heart felt like it was being eaten alive by ants. My little sister, the one who used to follow me everywhere, looked at me with nothing but hatred. Xinyan, Tang Hai walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. Give her some time, Chinner. She'll forgive you eventually. She has every right to hate me, I whispered. I failed her. Thank you for taking care of her all these years. Another set of footsteps echoed from the door. Tang Hai's daughter, Tang Xiao Xiao, walked in, looking annoyed. Where's Xinyan? I told her to wait for me, and she just ran off. I'm so mad. She stopped when she saw me. She looked me up and down with a disgusted expression. Dad, who is this old guy? Did he escape from a mental hospital? Xiao Xiao, watch your mouth. Tang Hai snapped. This is your brother, Xiao Chun. Xiao Xiao's jaw nearly hit the floor. Dad, you're joking, right? The Xiao Chun in my memory was a total heartthrob. This guy? No way. Don't get scammed. There are a lot of frauds out there these days. I didn't get angry. I just smiled weakly. Hello, Xiao Xiao. It's been a long time. You've grown up. She gasped. Faces change, but voices usually don't. She stared at me intensely. Brother Xiao Chun? It really is you. But how did you end up like this? I used to say I'd marry you when I grew up. Now I totally regret it. Stop talking nonsense, Xiao Xiao. Her mother called out, bringing dishes to the table. Go tell Xinyan to come down for dinner. We're having a family reunion tonight. Fine, fine, Xiao Xiao muttered, heading upstairs. She kept glancing back at me with a bewildered look. Come, Chinner, try my cooking, Annie said warmly. I sat down, but my mind was elsewhere. Xinyan hadn't come down. Was she really so disgusted that she couldn't even stand to look at me? Just as I was about to call out for her again. While I was lost in thought, Tang Xiao Xiao pulled Xiao Xinyan down from the second floor. We all sat down to eat. Xinyan kept her head low, focusing entirely on her rice. She didn't look at me once. Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, couldn't stop staring. I could practically see the gears turning in her head. She was probably thinking that if I just cut my hair and shaved, I'd actually be handsome. Despite the sadness in my eyes, I still carried an air of authority, like a king returning to his throne. I picked up a piece of chicken and placed it in Xinyan's bowl. Sister, I said softly, I remember how you used to fight me for the meat. From now on, I'll give it all to you. Can you ever forgive me? Xinyan didn't look up. Tears began to splash into her bowl, one by one. I won't forgive you, she choked out. Why did you even come back? Why didn't you stay hidden and live your happy life? She looked up then, her eyes red and swimming with pain. 8 years. It's been 8 long years. In a few more years, I might have actually forgotten you. I'm sorry, Xinyan. I said, my heart breaking. I'm never leaving you again. Where were you when I needed you? She shouted, her emotions finally exploding. Mom and Dad cried every single day after you vanished. My brother was the person who loved me most. He wouldn't have just abandoned us. You aren't my brother. My brother is dead. She stood up, trembling. Mom and Dad spent years searching for you in the wind and rain. Our whole family was ruined because of you. They died without ever seeing your face again. I hate you. I hate you so much. Xinyan, don't say that. Tang Hai interrupted, looking at her with fatherly pity. Your brother didn't have an easy time either. He must have had a reason. Just listen to his explanation. I looked at her, desperate for her to understand. Xinyan, I am so sorry. I never imagined so much would happen while I was gone. For 8 years, my freedom was taken from me. I wanted to come home every single second, but I couldn't leave. I tried. I really tried. Xinyan froze. She looked at me, really looked at me. She saw the handsome brother from her memory replaced by this haggard, middle-aged-looking man. Her heart began to soften. Tang Hai added, he's right, Xinyan. Your brother was always the most obedient boy. If he could have come home, he would have. Just look at him. You can tell he's suffered. Suddenly, Xinyan lunged forward and threw her arms around me. She sobbed into my chest. Brother, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have blamed you. Just don't leave me again, okay? I held her tight, my own eyes stinging. I won't. I promise. The Tang family watched us, smiles breaking out on their faces. Tang Hai looked toward the ceiling as if speaking to the heavens. Old friend, you can finally rest easy now. He clapped his hands. All right, enough crying. Today is a celebration. Qiuyue, go get that bottle of red wine. We sat back down. Xinyan wiped her tears and sat right next to me, happily piling food into my bowl while I did the same for her. My heart felt lighter than it had in years. Don't worry, Xinyan, I thought. I'll never leave. And the people who killed our parents? I will make them pay in blood. That night, I ate several bowls of rice. I hadn't tasted real food in 8 years. Even though my cultivation was at the golden core stage and I didn't actually need to eat, these flavors were what I had dreamed of for nearly a decade. The family watched me move like a starving man, their faces filled with pity. They couldn't imagine the hell I had endured. After dinner, I wanted to talk more, but it was late. Xinyan didn't have school tomorrow, so I decided it could wait. I took a shower, shaved off my thick beard, and sat cross-legged on the bed. It was time to practice the Gung Tian secret record. My old master had told me this was a top-tier cultivation technique, though he never specified the grade. He only warned me to never let anyone know I possessed it. Over the years, running a cycle of this technique every day had become a habit. However, Earth was different. The spiritual energy here was depleted, especially in the city. Without rare herbs or spirit stones, breaking through to the next level would be nearly impossible. As I activated the technique, a faint golden light surrounded my body. I pulled every scrap of spiritual energy from miles around into my golden core. The next morning, I walked out to find Xinyan waiting. She looked radiant in a white dress, a huge smile on her face. You're up early, I noted. Tang Xiaoxiao hopped out from behind her and blinked at me. Whoa, brother Xiao Chun, now that you've shaved, you actually look pretty young. I'm sorry for what I said yesterday. I laughed. It's fine, Xiao Xiao. I didn't take it to heart. The two girls whispered to each other, giggling and plotting. Finally, Xinyan walked up to me, looking a bit shy. Brother, can you come shopping with us? We have so much to buy, and we can't carry it all. Of course, I agreed instantly. I wanted to spend every moment I could with her. We took a taxi to a large mall. As we walked through the crowds, people started pointing and whispering. Look at that guy's hair, someone muttered. It's longer than a girl's. Others whispered about how handsome I looked despite the strange style. Xinyan smirked at me. Brother, we had another goal for today. We need to fix your look. Before I could protest, the two girls grabbed my hands and dragged me into a high-end hair salon. An hour later, I walked out. My long, wild hair was gone, replaced by a sharp, modern cut. I finally looked like I belonged in this century again. The new haircut changed everything. It complemented my sharp, chiseled features perfectly. My skin, refined by years of cultivation, looked clear and radiant. That unmistakable aura of a high-level cultivator surged from me, drawing eyes from every direction. Even the men passing by couldn't help but look twice. Wow, that guy is so handsome, I heard a girl whisper. His vibe is so unique. Quick, take a photo. I need to brag to my group chat. Tang Xiaoxiao beamed at me, nudging Xinyan with her elbow. See? I told you if Brother Xiaoqin cut his hair, he'd look better than any celebrity. Look at the heads turning. He's way hotter than the school honk. And honestly, you can't even tell he's in his late 20s. If we walked together, people would think we're the same age. She paused, then gave Xinyan a mischievous look. Hey, Xinyan, how about I become your sister-in-law? Shut up, you brat. Xinyan laughed, though she pulled me closer. We're best friends, but you are not allowed to hit on my brother. I don't want you as a sister-in-law. Despite her words, Xinyan looked incredibly happy. She clung to my arm, her face glowing with a sense of pride and security. The more impressive I appeared, the more she felt protected. I knew what she was thinking. Let's see who dares to call me an orphan now. Brother, let's go pick out some clothes for you, she said. Sure, I replied. I was happy to follow her lead. We headed to a high-end clothing store on the second floor. I knew Xinyan had been saving her money for years, living frugally just to have a small nest egg. She clearly thought I had suffered during my time away and wanted to make it up to me. As we stepped onto the second floor, we nearly collided with two young women. They froze, staring at us. Xiao Xinyan, Tang Xiaoxiao, one of them blurted out. Why are you two both holding onto the same man's arm? I gathered from their tone that these were classmates. Apparently, they were the type who bullied Xinyan at school, constantly mocking her for having no family. So what if we are? Xiaoxiao snapped back instantly. None of your business. The two girls stared at me, momentarily dazed by my appearance. As they walked away, I caught them whispering. Those two sluts. They act so pure at school, but they've already hooked up with a rich, handsome guy. One of them pulled out her phone and snapped a secret photo. I'm calling young Master Fu. He's been obsessed with Xinyan forever. If he sees this. Oh, there's going to be a show. I already called him, the other replied with a smirk. He's nearby. He said he'll be here in 30 minutes. Half an hour later, Xinyan insisted on paying for 2 sets of high-end clothes for me. Once I changed, I looked like a completely different person compared to the man who had wandered out of the mountains yesterday. We were about to leave when a group of people approached. A man in a designer suit led the way. He was handsome in a conventional way, but his face was twisted with rage as he stared at Xinyan's hand on my arm. Young Master Fu, see? We weren't lying. One of the girls from earlier whispered. Fujia looked like he was about to explode. I could almost hear his internal monologue. I've been chasing you for so long, and you're already someone else's woman? He marched toward us. I felt Xinyan's grip on my arm tighten. She was trembling. I realized then that this man was the source of a lot of her fear. I patted her hand gently. Don't worry, your brother is here. But brother, she whispered, her voice shaking. That's Fujia. His family is incredibly powerful. Even the school principal is afraid of him. He's the captain of the school's combat team. Please don't provoke him. I'm scared he'll hurt you. I gave her a small, confident smile. Trust me. Fujia stopped in front of us, his eyes burning. Xiao Xinyan. Who is he? You told me you wouldn't date because you wanted to focus on your studies. Now you're out here clinging to this guy? Are you trying to humiliate me? Xiao stepped forward, completely unfazed. What's it to you, Fujia? Xinyan can hold whoever she wants. In fact, both of us are going home with this handsome guy tonight. What? You two, both of you? Fujia's teeth ground together. The sheer aggression in his posture made Xinyan try to pull her hand away, likely wanting to protect me from his wrath. I didn't let go. I tightened my grip on her hand and looked Fujia dead in the eye. Get lost, I said coldly. Before I get angry. Fujia blinked, looking like he couldn't believe his ears. What did you say? Say that again. I said get lost. You've got guts, kid, Fujia sneered. Why don't you tell me your name? As a famous rich heir and a trained fighter, nobody in this city talked to him like this. He was known for being violent and getting whatever he wanted by any means necessary. You aren't worthy of knowing my name, I replied. Fine. I don't care who you are. I'm going to break you today. He waved a hand to the 2 black-suited bodyguards behind him. Get him. Make sure he can't get out of bed for a month. The bodyguards stepped forward. They looked like ex-special forces. Fu Jie clearly expected them to make quick work of a pretty boy like me. Kid, we don't know how to hold back, one bodyguard laughed, cracking his knuckles. We're experts at breaking limbs. Don't say we didn't warn you. Brother, watch out. Xinyan cried. Stay back, I told the girls calmly. The bodyguards lunged, their fists swinging toward my face. There were two dull thuds, the sound of impact. I moved faster than the human eye could follow, delivering a snap kick to each of their midsections. To the bystanders, it looked like I hadn't moved at all. Then, suddenly, both bodyguards were flying backward. They hit the floor several meters away, clutching their stomachs and rolling in agony. Fu Jie froze. He had some training, so he had barely seen the blur of my movement. His heart skipped a beat. This guy is a pro. Is he a martial artist? He knew that even he couldn't have taken down those two guards so easily. He clenched his fists, but he wasn't a complete fool. He knew when he was outmatched. He decided to retreat and find a more permanent way to deal with me later. His family had their own specialists, after all. You wait. Fu Jie barked. He turned on his heel and bolted, his two injured guards limping after him. The crowd stood in stunned silence. The two girls who had called him in the first place vanished into the shadows, terrified. I knew they'd probably go back to school and spread rumors, but I didn't care. Xinyan and Xiao Xiao rushed back to my side, grabbing my arms. Brother Xiao Chun, that was amazing, Xiao Xiao shouted. You kicked them so hard they practically flew. I couldn't even see your feet move. Xinyan looked at me with wide, wondering eyes. Yeah, brother. Since when did you learn to fight like that? Xinyan looked at me, her eyes filled with confusion. I reached out and patted her head affectionately. I told her that over the last few years, I had picked up some martial arts for self-defense. I explained that I wanted to make sure I could protect my family from now on. I told them it was fine and that we should head home. Xinyan hugged my arm and thanked me. She said that with me around, she didn't feel afraid of anything anymore. I smiled and promised her that as my sister, her world would always be guarded by me. Tang Xiaoxiao pouted playfully. She asked if I was only going to protect Xinyan and leave her out. I laughed and told her that she was like a sister to me too, so of course I'd protect her. That seemed to satisfy her, and she couldn't stop grinning the whole way back. Behind my smile, my mind was racing. I had held back during the fight at the mall. I didn't want to kill someone right in front of my sister the moment we reunited. But just because I didn't kill Fu Jie then didn't mean I was letting him go. I saw the look in his eyes when he left. He wasn't the type to drop a grudge. Instead of waiting for him to stab me in the back, I decided it was better to eliminate the threat early. 8 years of cultivation had changed me. In the world of cultivators, the strong eat the weak. Being too kind to your enemies is just being cruel to yourself. I wouldn't let anyone hurt the people close to me ever again. And then there were the people who killed my parents. I thought about the Li family. Once I dealt with Fu Jie, I planned to find out exactly how they crushed my parents' company. I never believed their deaths were a simple accident. That car crash had the Li family's fingerprints all over it. I was so deep in thought that I didn't even realize we had reached the house. Xinyan nudged me, asking what was on my mind. I told her I wanted to visit our parents' graves tomorrow. She nodded sadly. She told me they were buried in the county public cemetery. I froze. I asked her why they weren't buried in our ancestral family plot back in our hometown. Xinyan's expression turned bitter. She said our uncles and relatives blamed our parents for spending the family fortune trying to find me. They claimed my parents died owing money to loan sharks. The debt collectors had even shown up at the ancestral village. The elders said my parents had disgraced the Shao name and weren't fit to enter the family shrine. My blood boiled. I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles turned white. Those bastards. I looked at Xinyan and promised her that one day, I would build a grand tomb for our parents in the village. I would make sure they returned to their roots. If anyone tried to stop them from entering the shrine, I'd make them regret it. That night, after everyone fell asleep, I changed into comfortable clothes. I stepped out onto the third-floor balcony and leaped. I moved through the city like a ghost, blurring between high-rise buildings. My goal tonight was simple: blood. I needed to make sure Fu Jie never dared to look at my sister again. A guy like him didn't deserve to breathe the same air as her. Eventually, I planned to bring Xinyan into the world of cultivation, provided I reached a high enough level myself. I stood on top of the tallest building in Tianhai City and released my divine sense. It spread out like a wave, covering the entire city in seconds. I found him almost instantly. Fu Jie was at the Yunzhong KTV, a club owned by his family. He was in a luxury private room with a group of friends. Inside the room, Fu Jie was screaming at his men. He wanted to know who I was, but they couldn't find a single scrap of information on me. It was like I had appeared out of thin air. He was fuming, his face twisted with rage. He had a new bodyguard with him now, a man named Chong. The Fu family had paid a fortune for him. He was a third-rank martial artist, supposedly strong enough to punch through a steel plate. Fu Jie told Chong that when they found me, he wanted me beaten until I could never get out of bed again. Chong just laughed, boasting about how many tough guys he had crushed with his iron fists. Looking for me? I pushed the door open and walked right in. The room went silent. I sat down on a plush sofa, poured myself a glass of expensive liquor, and took a slow sip. There were about a dozen people in the room. Most looked confused, but Fu Jie's eyes turned murderous. He started laughing like a maniac. He told his friends that I was a dead man. He barked at Chong to take care of me, saying that since this was his territory, no one would care if I ended up dead. Chong looked at me with pure disdain. He called me a pretty boy and told me I looked weak. He gave me a choice: kneel, kowtow to Fu Jie, and maybe I'd live. I looked at him and smiled. This is the help you hired? I dipped my finger into my glass, picking up a single drop of liquor. I flicked it. The drop of liquid shot through the air like a sniper bullet. It whistled with terrifying speed and tore straight through Chong's thigh. It didn't stop there. It punched a hole right through the wall behind him. Chong let out a blood-curdling scream. He collapsed to the floor, clutching a hole in his leg that looked like it had been made by a high-caliber round. Sweat poured down his face. He didn't even try to fight. He dragged himself toward me and knelt, begging for his life. He knew that if I had aimed for his head, he'd be a corpse. The rest of the people in the room backed away, staring at me like I was a monster. They had seen it with their own eyes. A drop of water had done that. Fu Jie stood there, frozen. Chong, what are you doing? Why are you kneeling to him? Fu Jie was in total denial. He screamed that I was using some kind of cheap trick and told everyone not to be fooled. He couldn't accept that a human being could possess that kind of power. He turned to Chong and barked at him to pull his gun and kill me. He didn't believe I could dodge a bullet. Chong didn't move. He looked at Fu Jie and told him to shut up. He warned Fu Jie to kneel and apologize immediately, or the entire Fu family would pay the price. Chong could feel it. He knew I was a master, maybe even a grandmaster. His body was trembling so hard, he couldn't even look me in the eye. Fu Jie lost his mind. He called Chong a dog and ordered him to do his job. He was desperate, screaming at the top of his lungs for my head. I didn't feel like talking anymore. I sat there calmly and dipped my finger into my glass again. I flicked another drop of liquor. This time, the liquid condensed into the shape of a tiny, razor-sharp sword. It hissed through the air and punched straight through the center of Fu Jie's forehead. He didn't even have time to blink. He fell backward onto the sofa, his eyes wide and lifeless, staring at the ceiling in a permanent state of shock. The room erupted in screams. People scrambled away from the body, their faces pale with terror. They looked at me like I was a demon. A few of them fell to their knees, sobbing, promising they were just Fu Jie's casual friends and that they wouldn't say a word to the police. I ignored them. I stood up and walked over to Chong, who was still kneeling on the floor. I looked down at him. He had helped Fu Jie commit countless atrocities. People like him didn't deserve a second chance. I gave him a single, cold look. Under the sheer pressure of my killing intent, his body couldn't hold together. He exploded into a mist of blood right there in the middle of the room. Red spray covered the walls and the terrified guests. I didn't say a word as I walked out of the VIP booth. The survivors were paralyzed, huddled together in a corner, watching my shadow disappear. I knew this night would be their eternal nightmare. I walked out onto the streets of Tianhai City. The night air was cool. This was the first time I had killed since my return, but I felt no guilt. It was the law of the jungle. Fu Jie and Chong wanted me dead, and if I had been an ordinary man, my sister and I would have been destroyed. I would never show mercy to anyone who threatened my family. Now, it was time to find out why my parents really died. I decided to start my investigation with the Li family. I moved quickly, my figure blurring into the shadows until I vanished from the street. Back at the Yunzhong KTV, the scene was chaos. Police cars surrounded the building, their red and blue lights flashing against the glass. Gu Feifei, a detective known for her lethal efficiency and iron will, led the charge. She was famous in Tianhai for taking down the toughest gangs. She marched up to the third floor and shoved through the crowd of onlookers. When she stepped into the booth, the smell of iron and blood was overwhelming. One of her officers gasped when he saw the body on the sofa. It was Fu Jie, the youngest son of the powerful Fu family. Gu Feifei leaned over the body. She noticed the single, clean hole in his forehead. It was a perfect circle that went straight through his skull, but there was no exit wound from a bullet. She ordered her team to search for a projectile, but she had a feeling they wouldn't find one. A few minutes later, Fu Yuanshan, the head of the Fu family, burst into the room. When he saw his son's corpse, he nearly collapsed. He roared in agony, swearing to grind whoever did this into dust. Gu Feifei didn't back down. She reminded him that she was the one in charge of the investigation and told him to watch his tone. Fu Yuanshan didn't care. He threatened her, saying that if the police didn't find the killer, he'd make sure they all ended up in jail. She almost arrested him on the spot for threatening an officer, but her partner pulled her back. The Fu family had deep pockets and friends in high places. After the police processed the scene and took the witnesses away, Fu Yuanshan went back to his estate to watch the security footage. He stared at the screen, memorizing my face with pure, unadulterated hatred. One of his top enforcers, a man named Left Wind, stood behind him. Left Wind was an 8-stage martial artist, a man who could take on an entire special forces unit alone. He looked at the footage of the liquor drop and turned pale. He told Fu Yuanshan that I might be a grandmaster. He warned his boss that a grandmaster's power was absolute, and that provoking one could lead to the total destruction of the Fu family. Fu Yuanshan wouldn't listen. He didn't believe someone as young as me could be a grandmaster. He thought it was some kind of hidden weapon or a trick. Even if I was a god, he didn't care. I had killed his son, and he wasn't going to stop until I was dead. Left Wind thought for a moment before answering. He told Fu Yuanshan that even if I wasn't a grandmaster, my strength was at least equal to his. He speculated that I might have used a hidden technique, perhaps flicking a steel bead with enough force to pierce through young Master Fu's skull. Fu Yuanshan gritted his teeth. He said it was exactly what he was thinking. He asked Left Wind if he was confident he could kill me. Left Wind was honest. He admitted he probably wasn't a match for me in a fair fight. But, he added, if he took a few men armed with modern weapons, taking me down wouldn't be a problem. Fu Yuanshan's eyes gleamed with malice. He promised Left Wind that if he killed me, he would pay him 10 times his usual fee. Left Wind smiled. 10 times the pay was a fortune. He said the most important thing now was to find me. Fu Yuanshan nodded and immediately sent his men out to dig up every piece of information they could find on a man named Xiao Chun. He knew that to win a war, you had to know your enemy. On the other side of the city, I had already slipped away from the streets and returned to the Tang family villa. Once I was in my room, I sat down and began running a cycle of the Xiantian secret path. I didn't know that multiple powerful factions were already targeting me. Even if I did, I wouldn't have cared. No one could stop me from doing what I planned to do. The next morning, I had already pushed the events of the previous night to the back of my mind. When I walked down to the first floor, I found Tang Hai drinking his morning tea. I greeted him warmly. He laughed and asked if I was settling in okay. I told him it was great and that I hadn't slept that soundly in a long time. I mentioned that I planned to take my sister to visit our parents' graves today. Tang Hai nodded. He said it was only right since I was finally back. Then, he pulled out a key to a Toyota SUV and handed it to me. He told me to take it so getting around would be easier. I didn't play humble. I took the keys because I knew I needed a car. Tang Hai looked at me with concern. He reminded me that I had dropped out of middle school and that finding a good job would be hard. He offered me a position at his company, saying that when he got old, he'd leave the whole thing to me. I thanked him, but I told him I wasn't interested in managing a corporation. I asked if I could work at the traditional Chinese medicine clinic Tang Xiaoxiao had mentioned instead. Tang Hai was shocked. He warned me that the clinic was a grueling place. He said if I didn't have any medical skills, I'd just be stuck grinding and decocting herbs all day. He asked if I could handle that kind of hardship. I smiled. I told him I'd learned some pharmacology during my years on the mountain and that I might actually achieve something in the field. He thought about it and eventually agreed, telling me I could try it out and come to his company if it didn't work. He warned me that the clinic wasn't very famous and was barely staying afloat because of a high-priced doctor he'd hired. I told him not to worry. I wouldn't let him down. After breakfast, I hopped into the older Toyota. Xinyan sat in the passenger seat, and Xiao Xiao insisted on coming along to pay her respects as well. As I drove, Xinyan watched me with a focused look. She asked me what I had gone through over the last 8 years. Her eyes turned red as she imagined how much I must have suffered. I gave her a small smile. I told her that 8 years ago, I was essentially kidnapped and taken to a desolate mountain wilderness. I stayed there until now. Both girls gasped. To them, kidnapping was a nightmare. Xinyan got angry, saying we should call the police and catch the villain who stole 8 years of my life. I told her the police couldn't catch him. I couldn't even catch him. I didn't even know his name. Part of me hated him for making me lose the best years of my youth. If I hadn't disappeared, maybe my parents would still be alive. But he also taught me things, abilities that others couldn't even dream of. I told them I didn't know whether to hate him or be grateful. Xinyan huffed, saying I should definitely hate him and that she'd beat him senseless if she ever met him. Her fiery attitude made me laugh. Beat him? There wasn't a man on earth who could do that. For a moment, the three of us laughed and talked, leaving our worries behind. It was the happiest I had felt in 8 years. We soon arrived at a dilapidated cemetery on the edge of town. Looking at my parents' photos on the tombstone, my heart ached. I had spent thousands of nights dreaming of our reunion, only to find we were now separated by life and death. I knelt and apologized for being an unfilial son. In my heart, I swore I would find the people who caused their deaths and tear them into 1,000 pieces. The atmosphere was heavy as we finished our prayers. I promised Xinyan that soon, I would move our parents back to our ancestral hometown and place their tablets in the Xiao family hall. She told me she believed in me. Just then, a black Mercedes-Benz came speeding toward us, nearly pinning the three of us against the graves. The doors opened, and several men in suits and white hard hats stepped out. They looked at us with pure disdain. One of them mocked us, saying if we were actually filial, we wouldn't have buried our parents in such a dump. The others laughed. A chubby man in his 30s, the leader of the group, spoke with a cold voice. He told his subordinates that they had already secured the land rights for this cemetery. He ordered them to bring in the excavators tomorrow to level the place. He explained that their Green Mountain Villa project was a high-end development, and having a graveyard nearby would ruin the property value. He called the graves bad luck and told his men he'd take them out for a massage later to wash off the filth. My face went dark instantly. I stepped out and stood directly in front of the Mercedes, blocking their path. The driver leaned out and screamed, asking if I had a death wish. In the back seat, the man they called Young Master Chun saw me blocking the car. He sneered and told the driver to just run me over. He said he had plenty of money to pay for the medical bills if I ended up a cripple. The driver didn't hesitate. He floored the gas, but I didn't move an inch. The Mercedes driver was a cold-blooded bastard. He slammed his foot on the gas, and the engine let out a violent roar. The car lunged forward, aiming straight for my chest. Xinyan and Tang Xiaoxiao both screamed in terror, begging me to move. I didn't budge. I stood there like a mountain. A deafening crash echoed through the cemetery. I slammed both hands down onto the hood of the Mercedes. The metal buckled instantly, the front end crumpling like paper under my palms. The force was so immense that the rear wheels of the car actually lifted off the ground. Inside, the airbags deployed with a loud bang, leaving young Master Chun and his men bruised and bloody. Xinyan and Xiao Xiao had closed their eyes, too afraid to watch. When they finally opened them, they looked like they were questioning reality itself. They rushed over to me, faces pale with worry. I pulled my hands back from the hood. Too deep, perfect palm prints were left behind in the mangled steel. The car's rear wheels finally hit the dirt with a heavy thud, and broken parts clattered onto the ground. They grabbed my hands, frantically checking for injuries. When they saw I hadn't even broken the skin, their mouths hung open in shock. I hadn't wanted to show this side of myself to my sister so soon. But hearing these people talk about desecrating my parents' graves, I couldn't hold back. If she hadn't been standing right there, None of these men would be breathing right now. I told them I was fine. I lied and said I just learned some martial arts on the mountain that gave me great strength. They looked skeptical. No martial artist they'd ever heard of could stop a speeding car with their bare hands. But they chose to believe it to keep themselves sane. I walked to the car door and gripped the handle. With one sharp tug, I ripped the entire rear door off its hinges and tossed it aside like scrap metal. I reached in and grabbed the bloodied young Master Chun by his collar, dragging him toward me. I asked him who was behind the plan to destroy the cemetery. He looked at me like he was seeing a ghost. He started shaking, begging for his life. He stammered that they were from the Wong group. Apparently, this Green Mountain Villa was their latest high-end project in Tianhai City, and the graveyard was hurting their property value. He claimed he was just a project manager following orders. The Wong family, one of the 4 great families of Tianhai. First, the Li family crushed my parents' business, and now the Wongs wanted to dig up their bones. My grip tightened. I realized I had been far too merciful since my return. I let out a low roar of fury and delivered a massive kick to the side of the Mercedes. The entire car, with the men still inside, flipped through the air and rolled several times before landing in a heap of twisted metal. I walked over to the wreckage one last time. I told the dying young Master Chun that I would let him live for one reason. He was to go back and tell the Wong family that I would be paying them a personal visit tonight to settle the score. He nodded weakly, coughing up blood, thanking me for sparing his life. On the drive home, the girls were silent, still reeling from what they'd seen. Finally, Xiao Xiao asked what kind of martial arts I practiced to have bones like iron. I told her the world was much bigger than she knew, and as long as I was around, no one would ever hurt them again. Xiao Xiao started talking about a Sanda coach at their school who could supposedly punch through steel. I just laughed. I didn't tell her that my fists didn't even need to touch the steel to break it. That night, after dinner, I went to my room. But across the hall, the girls were whispering. Xiao Xiao was convinced I was a secret assassin. She'd seen movies where kids were kidnapped and trained in the mountains for 10 years before being sent back for missions. The more she talked, the more Xinyan started to believe it. The timeline fit. The mountain setting fit. My terrifying power fit. They started panicking, wondering who my target was and if I'd have to silence them if they found out too much. Then they hatched a plan. They decided that if I really was an assassin, my body would be covered in scars from devil training. They just needed to find a way to see me without my shirt on. They also knew assassins usually worked at night. Xiao Xiao whispered that they should check my room right then. If I was gone, it would prove their theory was right. I heard them approaching my door as I prepared to head out into the darkness. Is it really okay to just go into his room like this? Xinyan whispered, her voice trembling. Oh, come on, Xiao Xiao hissed back. We'll just knock. If he's in there, we'll run and say we got the wrong door. Hurry up. I listened from the shadows as they crept toward my door. They pressed their ears against the wood, holding their breath. Total silence. Try knocking, Xiao Xiao urged. Asterisk thump. 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 Asterisk. Xinyan tapped lightly, but I didn't make a sound. Xinyan, I'm opening it. Stand back. They pushed the door open and stepped inside. I wasn't there. I was already gone. See? I told you. Xiao Xiao's voice was a mix of excitement and terror. It's confirmed. Your brother is definitely an assassin. Xinyan looked at the empty bed, her eyes welling up with tears. But Xiao Xiao, assassins never end up with a good life. I don't want my brother to be a killer. She started sobbing quietly. Hey, don't cry. Xiao Xiao comforted her. If you still don't believe it, we just need to see if he has scars. We'll find an excuse to see him without his shirt tomorrow after school. I hope we're wrong, too. While they were debating my secret life, I was already miles away. I stood at the gates of the Wong family's mountainside villa. Who goes there? A voice barked. No outsiders allowed near the Wong residence. Get lost. 2 security guards blocked my path. They looked me up and down, seeing only my cheap sneakers and casual clothes. To them, I was a nobody who had walked up the mountain on foot. They were used to seeing luxury cars and powerful officials. They didn't think I was worth their politeness. I didn't stop. I kept walking, my eyes fixed on the house. You're asking for it, one of them growled. They pulled batons from their belts and swung hard at my head. I didn't even raise my hands. I let my inner energy explode. A massive shockwave hit them like a freight train, sending them flying backward. They smashed through the heavy front gates, their bodies skidding across the courtyard. Inside the villa, Wangda, the head of the family, was enjoying a lavish dinner with his relatives. Manager Chun, the man I had taught a lesson earlier, was busy telling him about the day's events. Wangda hadn't cared. He didn't believe anyone in this city was brave enough to storm his home. Then came the crash. The alloy doors buckled as the two guards landed in the middle of the courtyard, coughing up blood and organs. Wangda jumped up, his face darkening as he led his family outside. He saw the guards, then his eyes landed on me. "Take him down," Wangda roared. "You dare break into my home and hurt my people? You're a dead man." Dozens of bodyguards in black suits swarmed from the shadows, armed with batons and machetes. "I'm giving you one chance," I said, my voice cold. "Anyone who isn't a Wong can leave now. Don't throw your lives away." The security manager, a man who had held his post for 10 years, stepped forward with a sneer. "Waste this kid," he ordered. He was a rank 3 martial artist, and he felt his reputation was on the line. He earned millions a year to keep this place safe, and I was making him look bad. 10 guards charged at once. I didn't want to kill people who were just doing a job, but my anger was already boiling over. I punched the first man, sending him airborne, and snatched a baton from his hand. The baton became a blur in my grip. It moved like it was alive, weaving through the crowd. All I heard was the sickening crack of bone after bone. In less than 2 seconds, all 10 guards were on the ground, their legs shattered. White bone poked through their skin as they screamed in agony. The Wong family members gasped. They had never seen anything so brutal or so fast. I dropped the baton and started walking toward the security manager. He was trembling. He could feel the suffocating pressure radiating off me. Wangda, however, remained calm. He realized I was a high-level martial artist, but he had cards left to play. He had already sent for the family's elite protectors. Plus, he had snipers positioned around the villa. In his mind, unless I was a grandmaster, I wasn't leaving here alive. The security manager mustered his courage and lunged at me. I didn't even blink. I planted a kick into his chest that sent him flying into the darkness. I didn't know if he was still breathing, and I didn't care. "My friend," Wangda said, stepping forward. "You've come a long way to spill blood. There must be a reason. What do you want? Money? Power?" I stopped a few feet from him. "I don't want anything," I said quietly. "I'm just here to kill people today. Is it okay if I don't talk?" "You arrogant brat," Wangda snapped. "You think my family is defenseless?" As soon as the words left his mouth, 2 cracks echoed from the rooftops. 2 snipers had fired simultaneously. One 7.62mm bullet was aimed at my forehead. The other was aimed straight for my heart. The Wong family smiled. They knew no one below the level of a grandmaster could stop a bullet, especially not from high-powered rifles like these. They expected to see my head explode. But when the smoke cleared, I was still standing there. I even had a small smile on my face. "They missed," Wangda hissed, his face turning pale. "Those useless idiots missed from that distance? I'll kill them myself." He had no idea. Up on the rooftops, the 2 snipers were staring through their scopes, their mouths hanging open in pure, paralyzed shock. The snipers saw everything through their 8-power scopes. They saw the bullets pass directly through my head and chest. They expected me to drop. They expected a bloodbath. But I didn't fall. There wasn't a single scratch on me. I let my aura explode. The pressure was so intense that the people in the courtyard nearly collapsed, their legs buckling under the weight of my power. But I wasn't targeting them. 2 agonizing screams ripped through the night air. Up on the rooftops, the 2 snipers fell. A single green leaf was embedded deep into the center of each man's forehead. Even in death, their eyes remained wide, fixed on me in a gaze of pure terror. If they could still speak, they would have asked the same thing. Was I a man or a ghost? Wangda froze. He finally realized he wasn't dealing with a typical thug. He had several high-level martial artists in his employ, but a cold feeling in his gut told him I could snap them like twigs. His family had the resources to hire a grandmaster if they had to, but he knew better than to make a mortal enemy out of a man like me unless there was no other choice. In an instant, his face transformed. The anger vanished, replaced by a practiced, businessman's smile. He hadn't survived decades in the cutthroat world of Tianhai City by being stupid. "Haha, my young friend," Wangda said, spreading his hands. I think I understand why you've come to find trouble with the Wang family. As the saying goes, it's better to resolve an enmity than to keep it alive. We don't have a blood feud. There's no need for us to fight to the death, right? I didn't answer. I just watched him. I give you my word, he continued quickly. The Wang family will not touch that cemetery. In fact, I'll personally fund its restoration and find a way to shield it from public view. What do you think? Hearing this, my anger cooled significantly. As long as they left my parents' graves alone, I could let them live. Besides, a family as powerful as the Wangs might be useful to me later. Wangda saw my silence and got nervous. He thought his offer wasn't enough. Young man, I'm willing to offer you 100 million yuan. Let's be friends. What do you say? Dad, why are we afraid of him? A voice barked from behind Wangda. It was his son, Wang Xiqing. He looked at me with pure resentment. I've already called our protectors. When they get here, they'll handle this kid easily. He hurts so many of our people. I can't just swallow this. If the other families find out we paid someone off after they attacked our home, how can we even show our faces in Tianhai? He spoke in a low voice, but I heard every word. I let out a small, cold smile. I raised my right hand, pressing 2 fingers together. I channeled my internal energy, and a stray leaf began to orbit my fingertips, spinning with lethal speed. The Wang family gaped. Then, a sharp whistle cut through the air. The leaf blurred past Wang Xiqing's ear. He let out a howl of pain as a deep gash opened across his cheek. Energy projection? Wangda gasped, his voice trembling. He's a Huaxia Grandmaster? Son. Wangda rushed over to check the wound. When he saw it was just a cut, he let out a massive sigh of relief. I hope the Wang family remembers what was said today, I said, my voice echoing. Otherwise, I will make sure your family ceases to exist. Before they could respond, I tapped my foot against the ground and soared into the night sky, vanishing into the darkness. Wangda stood there, paralyzed. Energy, projection, and short-range flight. Those were the unmistakable marks of a grandmaster. Heaven help us, Wangda whispered. We almost made a mortal enemy out of a grandmaster. If I hadn't backed down, today would have been the end of our lineage. Xiqing, you should thank that man for sparing your life. Do not even think about revenge. The wrath of a grandmaster is something we cannot survive. Do you understand? Yes, Dad, Xiqing stammered, his face pale. I'm still shaking. He looks my age. Who would have thought? If I knew, I wouldn't have dared to breathe in his direction. Good, Wangda nodded. He said his name is Xiao Chun. Find out where he lives and get every bit of data on him. And tell the men, nobody touches that cemetery. Anyone who does, dies. I'll handle it right now, Dad. One more thing, Wangda added. When you find his address, send that 100 million. No, make it 200 million. 100 million might not be enough to catch the eye of a man like him. While the Wang family spent a long, sleepless night recovering from the shock, I was flying through the night air. To any normal person below, I was nothing more than a blur. I touched down at the Tang family villa and slipped through my bedroom window. I stopped dead. Sitting on my bed were Xiao Xinyan and Tang Xiaoxiao. They were fast asleep, tangled together in a messy pile of limbs, their faces inches apart. It was incredibly awkward. They looked so peaceful, and since they had school in the morning, I didn't have the heart to wake them. I found a spot on the floor, turned my back to the bed, and sat down to meditate. I began running the Xiantian secret record through my veins. It was my daily requirement. As the energy circulated, the air in the room grew crisp and pure. In their sleep, the 2 girls smiled, probably dreaming of flower gardens. The next morning, Tang Xiaoxiao woke up first. She rubbed her eyes, saw a man sitting in the room, and let out a blood-curdling scream. I jumped. Xinyan bolted upright, startled. Xiaoxiao, what are you screaming about so early? Xinyan groaned. Brother Xiao Chun, why are you in our room? Xiaoxiao squealed, pulling the covers up. I know you're handsome, but I'm not ready for this yet. Xinyan rubbed her eyes and looked around. She realized where they were. Brother, when did you get back? We waited so long for you last night that we accidentally fell asleep on your bed. Wait, Brother Xiao Chen's bed. Xiao froze. She looked around the room and turned bright red. Oh, right. We were in here. Brother Xiao Chun, forget what I just said. I'm leaving. I'm gone. They scrambled out of the room. I watched them go, feeling a bit confused. They waited up for me. They were definitely starting to get suspicious. It wasn't time to tell them the truth yet, though. If I told them everything now, they'd probably just think I was crazy. After breakfast, Xin Yan and Xiao Xiao headed off to school, leaving me to plan my next move. During breakfast, Xin Yan and Xiao Xiao kept glancing at me with suspicious eyes. They clearly had 1,000 questions, but with Uncle Tang Hai and the housekeeper around, they held their tongues. They'd probably wait until after school to corner me. I turned to Tang Hai. Uncle Tang, I think I'll head to the Chinese medicine clinic to report for duty today. I've been back for a few days now, and I want to start integrating back into society. Tang Hai originally wanted me to rest longer, but seeing my resolve, he nodded. All right, Chenair. The clinic is called Zairin Tang. I'll send you the location. I've already let them know you're coming, so just head straight in. After breakfast, Tang Hai left for his company. I hopped in the car and drove toward one of the busiest streets in Tianhai City. It wasn't hard to find. Amidst the modern buildings, the vintage facade of Zairin Tang stood out immediately. I parked and walked inside. Even though it was early, the hall was buzzing. People were lining up for consultations or waiting for prescriptions. The place was doing well. Young man, if you're here to see a doctor, go talk to the physician over there. Don't block the way. An older man, about 60 years old, walked up to me after seeing me scanning the room. You must be Uncle Lu, I said with a smile. I'm Xiao Chun. Uncle Tang Hai sent me. Oh, so you're Xiao Chun. He laughed heartily, his face brightening. Welcome, welcome. President Tang mentioned a relative would be coming to help out. I didn't expect such a sharp-looking young man. You flatter me, Uncle Lu. Just tell me what needs to be done. I can handle anything. I can't just give you the heavy lifting, he chuckled. President Tang told me to look after you. How about this? You can help Xiao Yun with the medicine grinding and preparation for now. Xiao Yun. He called out to a figure working in the back. A woman in her early 20s, wearing a white lab coat, looked up. Uncle Lu, what is it? I'm busy here. Xiao Yun, come over. I want to introduce you to someone. This is Xiao Chun. Starting today, you're in charge of showing him the ropes. Xiao Yun wore glasses and had her hair pulled back into a neat, strict style that didn't quite match her cute face. She walked over, looking a bit stressed. But Uncle Lu, I'm still learning things myself. How am I supposed to lead someone? She finally looked up at me. The moment our eyes met, her face turned bright red. She froze. I guess she liked what she saw. Uncle Lu laughed. Xiao Yun, your skills are obvious to everyone. You've never made a mistake with the prescriptions. I trust you. And Xiao Chun, don't let her age fool you. She's a graduate student from a top Chinese medicine university. She's only an intern here because she needs more experience before she can start her own consultations. Nice to meet you, I said, extending my hand. I'm Xiao Chun. I'll be in your care. Ah, hi, she stammered. Her heart was clearly racing. Being this close to someone who fit her Prince Charming ideal seemed to have short-circuited her brain. Don't just stand there, Uncle Lu prodded. Get to know each other and get to work. Xiao Yun finally regained her senses and shook my hand. I'm Mu Yun. You can just call me Xiao Yun. Good, Uncle Lu said. Xiao Chun is all yours. Teach him well so you don't have to work so hard. Maybe then you'll have time to assist Master Yi during his consultations. Didn't you always want that? Xiao Yun's eyes lit up. She had only interned here to learn from Master Yi, but the man had stopped taking disciples long ago. She was willing to do menial chores just for a chance to be near his expertise. Okay, Uncle Lu. I'll definitely take care of Xiao Chun. I followed her to the medicine cabinets. She handed me several herbs. Memorize these first, then chop them up so we can brew them together. I got to work, following her instructions. After a while, I grew curious. Xiao Yun, who exactly is this Master Yi? She stopped and stared at me like I was an alien. You don't know Master Yi? Why are you even studying medicine? He's one of the few true masters in China. They call him the Sacred Hand. He's a permanent consultant for the National Medical Association. His students are all over the world. Her eyes were full of worship. If he's that famous, why is he here? I asked. That stumped her. She shook her head. I don't know. Powerful people find it impossible to even get a meeting with him, and some offer fortunes just for a house call, but he refuses. I have no idea how President Tang convinced him to consult at Zairin Tang 3 days a month. Only 3 days a month. Is he here today? In your dreams, she scoffed. His scheduled days are still a few days away. Those are our busiest times. Most of the doctors here have been mentored by him, but he's just one of the great masters. I attended one of his lectures in university, and that's when I decided I had to follow him. I see. Suddenly, several black sedans screeched to a halt outside. A group of men marched in, carrying a woman who looked like she was in extreme pain. "Who's in charge here?" one of them barked. Uncle Lou frowned. He could tell these guys were trouble. He hurried over with a professional smile. "Gentlemen, are you here for treatment? The patient looks like she's suffering. Let's get a doctor to look at her." "Cut the crap," the leader yelled. "This is my brother's girlfriend. She came here for her monthly cramps, but after taking your medicine, she's been in agony for days. It hasn't helped at all. If she's going to hurt regardless of the medicine, then your medicine is garbage." He slammed a hand on a table. "Fix her right now. Make the pain stop and guarantee she never feels it again, or we're going to wreck this entire clinic." "Yeah," his cronies shouted. A bunch of quacks. The customers inside the clinic were terrified. They scrambled for the exit, desperate to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. Xiaoyan couldn't stay silent anymore. "You people are unbelievable. It's normal for a woman to have some pain during her cycle. How can any doctor guarantee she'll never feel it again?" "Oh, you've got a mouth on you, don't you?" The lead thug sneered. He raised his hand, ready to strike Xiaoyan to teach her a lesson. "Stop!" A man's voice rang out. It was Feng Qisheng, one of the clinic's doctors. "I'll examine her. I'm the one who prescribed her medicine a few days ago. It should have eased the pain. Let's talk this through instead of resort to violence." The thugs turned their fury on him. "You actually have the guts to show your face? Fine, treat her. But if you can't fix her, I'm going to break both of your hands." I stood back and watched the scene unfold. I wanted to see what kind of game they were playing. At first glance, I suspected the woman was faking it. Even if she wasn't, blaming a doctor for menstrual cramps was ridiculous. Feng Qisheng had held his medical license for years. He was experienced. These kinds of minor issues shouldn't have been a problem for him. He had the woman sit down and took her pulse for a long time. "Miss, your body is actually quite healthy," Feng Qisheng said eventually. "The medicine I gave you will definitely help if you take it on time. If the pain is truly unbearable right now, I can give you some painkillers." He looked at the man in black. "That's the situation. Just follow the prescription, and the monthly pain will subside." "That's it," the leader roared. "You talked all that trash, and she's still hurting? You're a hack. Boys, grab him. I'm taking his hands." The thugs started cracking their knuckles, moving in for the kill. Uncle Lou panicked and threw himself in front of Feng Qisheng. "Wait, don't do this," Uncle Lou cried out. "Just give us a number. Can we settle this with money?" The leader laughed. "Oh, you've got money? Fine. 10 million. Give us 10 million and we leave. Otherwise, we'll keep smashing clinics like yours until there's nothing left." 10 million. Everyone in the clinic gasped. It was a blatant shakedown. "We don't have that kind of money," Uncle Lou said firmly. "We want peace, but the most we can offer is 50,000. If you won't take that, we'll have to call the police." 50,000? You think we're beggars?" The leader spat. "We spend more than that in a single night. Boys, wreck the place. Xiaoyan, call the police." Uncle Lou shouted. I stepped forward. I reached out and took the woman's pulse myself. My brow furrowed. I was wrong. She wasn't faking it. She had been poisoned. It looked like a slow-acting toxin, intentionally administered by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. "Where did this kid come from?" one of the thugs barked. "Who gave you permission to touch our brother's girl?" I ignored their shouting. I looked at Xiaoyan. "Give me a set of acupuncture needles, please." She was confused, but she didn't hesitate. She ran to grab the kit and handed it to me. I pulled out the needles and began placing them on the woman's head and abdomen. With every needle, I channeled a trace of my spiritual energy, using it to dissolve the toxins in her system. As I placed the final needle, the woman suddenly lurched forward and spat out a mouthful of thick, black blood. Almost instantly, the color returned to her face. The agony vanished. The thugs were stunned. One of them whispered, "I thought they said nobody could detect it." "Let's go," the leader hissed. They grabbed the woman and scrambled into their cars, fleeing the scene in a cloud of exhaust. The clinic went silent. Everyone was staring at me. "Xiaochun, what just happened?" Xiaoyan asked, her voice trembling. "She was poisoned with a chronic toxin," I explained. It's not lethal in the short term, but it causes extreme abdominal pain. To control a poison so precisely, the person behind this must be a master of Chinese medicine. Someone wanted to use this woman to ruin the clinic's reputation. Fang Qisheng walked up to me and bowed deeply. Thank you. If it wasn't for you, I would have lost my hands today. I'm Fang Qisheng, the chief physician here. I'm Xiao Chun, I replied. You're welcome. I work here too. It was the right thing to do. Fang Qisheng looked at me with newfound respect. How did you know it was poison? I checked her pulse, and everything seemed normal. You're a hidden master, aren't you? I shook my head and gave him a humble smile. You flatter me. I just learned a few tricks from an old senior a long time ago. I happened to recognize the symptoms. It was just a lucky guess. All right, enough modesty from both of you, Uncle Lu sighed. If I had to guess, those thugs were sent by Tong Rin Tang. Tong Rin Tang? I asked. Who are they? They're opening a massive luxury clinic right across the street, Xiao Yun explained. They've been trying to poach Dr. E, offering him 10 million a day just to sit in their office. He refused, and now we're their biggest target. They've already stolen several of our doctors. We're only surviving on our old regulars. If they take Dr. E, our brand is dead. I looked out the window at the construction across the street. The medical world was more cutthroat than I thought. Don't worry, Uncle Lu, I said quietly. I won't let Zai Rin Tang disappear. Uncle Lu sighed again, looking defeated. I appreciate the sentiment, Xiao Chun, but Tong Rin Tang belongs to the Li family. We can't fight them. The Li family invests in small clinics. Don't underestimate this business, Uncle Lu warned. Reputation in medicine builds a massive platform for a corporation. The Li family started in pharmaceuticals. They control 80% of the traditional medicine market in this city, and they're already moving into Western research and sales. They are giants. The Li family didn't just stop at medicine. They had their hands in everything, even the tech industry and microchips. Tong Rin Tang was their crown jewel, a flagship for their traditional medicine empire. They were the undisputed tyrants of Tianhai City. They owned over a dozen massive clinics, and if any smaller practice dared to threaten their bottom line, they crushed it without mercy. Zai Rin Tang only survived because Dr. E was stubborn. He didn't care about their power and never gave them the time of day. The eldest son of the Li family, Li Yuan, had personally visited Dr. E several times to poach him. Each time, he was flatly rejected. But as long as Dr. E was still seeing patients here, I knew Li Yuan would be back. Li Yuan. I memorized the name. I still didn't know where to start looking for the truth about what happened to my parents, so I decided this man would be my first lead. We cleaned up the clinic quickly. Soon, the broken glass was gone, the herbs were restocked, and we were back to seeing patients. By the afternoon, a luxury black business van pulled up to the entrance. A young woman in a sharp black professional suit rushed inside, her face pale with anxiety. Is Dr. E here? Please, I need Dr. E, she cried out. Old Kai stepped forward, sensing her status wasn't ordinary. Miss, Dr. E isn't seeing patients today. If it's an emergency, our other doctors can help you. What? He's not here, she gasped, her voice trembling. Where is he? Tell me where I can find him. I'll go to him right now. I'm sorry, we can't reach him, Old Kai said with a helpless sigh. Whenever he isn't here, he travels the country. He doesn't keep a schedule. The woman collapsed onto the floor and started sobbing. Old Kai looked at her, overwhelmed. It seemed like today was just one strange event after another. Fang Qisheng walked over to her. Miss, is someone in your family ill? I was trained by Dr. E. Yi's own mentor. I assist him during his rotations. I'm practically his disciple. Stop crying and let me come to your home to take a look. The woman looked up, her eyes filled with scorn. You? You think you're qualified to treat my grandfather? The three greatest masters of traditional medicine in China are stumped. Famous experts from all over the world can't find a cure. You think you can do it? Dr. E is our last hope. Fang Qisheng went silent. He couldn't say a word. To be able to summon the three legendary masters of China meant this woman's family was beyond influential. Even the top elites of Tianhai City couldn't pull that kind of weight. Suddenly, her phone rang. She answered it, and her face transformed. What? You found Dr. E? Good. I'm coming back now. She scrambled off the floor, sprinted back to her van, and vanished down the street in a cloud of exhaust. Xiao Yun and the others were thrilled. If Dr. E had been spotted, it meant he'd be back at the clinic within a day or two. While I stayed busy at the clinic, things were heating up at the Tianhai Police Department. Gu Feifei was staring at Fu Jie's autopsy report, looking completely baffled. The medical examiners say they don't know what pierced his skull, she muttered to herself. There's no murder weapon. Did the air just decide to pass through his brain? A junior officer ran in. Captain Gu, we found him. His name is Xiao Chun. He was reported missing 10 years ago. We matched him against the surveillance footage from the mall. Xiao Chun, Gu Feifei repeated, a cold smile spreading across her face. Perfect. Put out a citywide dragnet. Find him. He thinks he can kill people on my turf? He's about to find out I'm not just here for show. Meanwhile, inside the Fu family mansion, the atmosphere was lethal. Sir, we found the killer. A subordinate reported to Fu Yuanshan. His name is Xiao Chun. He's the brother of Xiao Xinyan, the girl your son was pursuing. Fu Yuanshan slammed his fist onto the mahogany coffee table, shattering the glass. That bastard. My son just liked his sister. Why did he have to kill him? My son is dead because of a crush? He was shaking with pure, unadulterated rage. Tells Wafeng to go get the sister. If we have the girl, that coward will show his face. I want them both dead. I'll bury them with my son. At the same time, Xiao Xinyan and Tang Xiaoxiao arrived at school. They immediately felt the heavy weight of 100 staring eyes. When they found out why, they were furious. The school forums were exploding. Photos of the two of them walking through the mall, clinging to my arms, were everywhere. The captions were nasty, suggesting they were both involved with some mysterious sugar daddy. Look at them, Xiaoxiao whispered, leaning into Xinyan. They're just jealous. Let them talk. We know the truth, so why care what they think? You're right, Xinyan sighed. I was just worried Fu Jie would cause trouble today. But he's not even in class. It's strange. They looked at each other, and the same dark thought hit them both at once. Xinyan, do you think your brother? Xiaoxiao made a slicing motion across her throat. He's a martial artist, right? They usually do their work at night. And your brother went out late last night and didn't come back until the early hours. Now Fu Jie is missing? Xinyan didn't answer. She just looked out the window, her heart racing. The moment Tang Xiaoxiao said those words, the air between the two girls shifted. They looked at each other with wide eyes, as if they had just stumbled upon a massive, dangerous secret. Xinyan shook her head quickly, trying to dismiss the thought. She told Xiaoxiao not to talk nonsense, insisting I wasn't some kind of hitman. She claimed it was just a coincidence, but I knew my sister. Her mind was already racing, piecing together the timing of my late-night return and Fu Jie's sudden disappearance. The school bell rang, signaling the end of the day. As they walked toward the gates, Xiaoxiao's imagination started running wild. She whispered to Xinyan that they had to check my body for scars tonight. She insisted they had to act like they knew nothing to protect my secret identity. Then, she started giggling, calling herself a hitman's woman, and wondering where I hid my secret base full of advanced weapons. She even started daydreaming about me teaching her how to shoot. Xinyan couldn't take it anymore. She reached out and pinched Xiaoxiao's waist, telling her to stop making moves on her brother. Xiaoxiao just laughed, teasing Xinyan that she'd be calling her sister-in-law soon enough. They were playing around, lost in their own world, until they reached a street corner. The screech of tires cut through their laughter. A white van slammed to a halt right in front of them. Before they could react, men jumped out and grabbed Xinyan. She screamed for help, kicking and struggling, but they threw her into the van. One of the men looked at Xiaoxiao and gave her a chilling ultimatum. If she wanted Xinyan to live, she had to tell Xiao Chun to get to the abandoned steel factory in the western suburbs before dark. The van sped off, leaving Xiaoxiao screaming Xinyan's name in the middle of the street. She was terrified. Her first thought was that this was revenge for Fu Jie. She knew if I went there, I'd be walking into a trap. She called the police immediately, her hands shaking, and then she called me. But she couldn't just sit and wait. She flagged down a taxi and headed for the factory herself. I was on my way home from work when my phone rang. The moment I heard Xiaoxiao's panicked voice, my blood turned to ice. I didn't waste a second. I closed my eyes for a fraction of a second, spreading my divine sense across the city until I locked onto my sister's presence. I floored the accelerator. My old Toyota roared, weaving through traffic at 200 kilometers per hour. What should have been a 30-minute drive took me less than 10. I reached the rusted gates of the factory and didn't bother slowing down. I crashed straight through them. My heart was pounding with a cold, sharp fury. Today, I was going to kill, and no one was going to stop me. Behind me, Xiao Xiao's taxi pulled up. She saw the smashed gates and her heart sank, realizing I was already inside. I stepped out of the car and walked deep into the warehouse. My divine sense showed me everything. There were men hidden behind pillars and crates, armed to the teeth. In the center of the room, Xinyan was tied to a chair. A man named Zhuofeng stood over her. When he saw me, he smirked, impressed by how fast I'd arrived. I didn't care about his taunts. I looked at Xinyan and saw a red handprint on her face. She was unconscious. That was the final straw. I wanted them all dead. I didn't walk, I blurred. I covered the distance in an instant, my aura exploding outward like a physical weight. Zhuofeng's face went pale, his knees buckling under the pressure. He screamed for his men to fire. A dozen men opened up with machine guns, filling the air with lead. Zhuofeng started to grin, thinking no one could survive that many bullets at such close range. But then his smile froze. The bullets didn't hit me. They stopped in midair, hovering in a shimmering wall of energy just inches from my skin. What are you?" he stammered, his voice trembling. He realized I wasn't just a martial arts master. He begged for his life, claiming Fu Yuanshan had forced him to do it. I walked up to him and grabbed him by the throat, lifting his entire body off the ground with one hand. I looked him in the eye and told him the truth. I wasn't a man, and I wasn't a ghost. I was a god. With a sickening crack, I snapped his neck. I let go, and his lifeless body slumped to the floor, his eyes wide with terror even in death. Behind a nearby pillar, Xiao Xiao was watching everything. Her heart was beating so hard she thought it might burst. She stared at me, wondering if I was even human. "Xiao Xiao, stop hiding," I said, not turning around. "Come help me." I had known she was there the whole time. Part of me thought about wiping her memory, but for now, I just needed to get my sister home. Xiao Xiao walked over, her legs shaking so badly she could barely stand. When she saw the bodies, she doubled over and threw up. I untied Xinyan and checked her vitals. She was okay, just unconscious from the shock. I picked her up and headed for the car. On the way out, we passed several police cars screaming toward the factory, but I didn't stop. The drive back was silent. Xiao Xiao sat in the back, holding Xinyan, staring at me through the rearview mirror. The girl who usually never stopped talking was suddenly terrified to speak. She looked at me like I was a stranger from another world. "Brother Xiao Chun, who are you really?" she finally whispered. I met her eyes in the mirror. I told her that I would always be her and Xinyan's brother. I promised her that if anyone ever tried to hurt them, I would never let them get away with it. I told her to go home and sleep, and that she would forget all of this by morning. "Are you going to erase my memory?" she asked, her voice small. "Like in the movies? Because I saw something I wasn't supposed to see." I sighed, looking back at the road. Her imagination was still as wild as ever, even after everything we'd just been through. I was surprised by how much this girl knew. I had actually been planning to wipe Tang Xiao Xiao's memory the moment we got clear. "Brother Xiao Chun, please don't erase my memory," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "I promise I won't tell anyone. Not Xinyan, not my parents. Nobody. Please." I looked at her through the mirror and couldn't help but smile. Her eyes were wide and desperate. "All right, Xiao Xiao," I said softly. "There are things I can't tell you yet. I'll explain everything when the time is right." She nodded vigorously, a small, playful spark returning to her eyes. "I understand. It'll be a secret just between the two of us. Not even Xinyan will know. Does that make me a qualified assassin's woman?" I nearly choked. "What? An assassin's woman? What are you talking about?" "Oh, stop pretending," she giggled, leaning forward. "I've already figured it out. You're a professional assassin. You disappeared for 10 years to undergo secret training, and now you're back for a mission, right? Tell me, that thing you did to stop the bullets, was it some kind of high-tech gadget?" I stared at the road ahead. My assassin girlfriend? These girls had wild imaginations. Still, if they wanted to believe I was a secret agent or a hitman, it was better than the truth. It explained why I was different. "You caught me," I said, playing along with a small grin. What you saw was the latest technology developed by my organization. Stopping bullets is easy with the right gear. I knew it, she chirped, clapping her hands. I've already decided. I'm going to write a paper called Me and My Assassin Boyfriend. It's going to be a total hit. I shook my head. I had to admire her creativity. When we reached the Tang Villa, I carried Xinyan straight to her room. I placed her on the bed and summoned a trace of spiritual energy into my palm, gently stroking her bruised face. My anger flared again as I looked at her. I had warned them. Anyone who touched my family would pay the ultimate price. Under my touch, the red handprints on her cheeks vanished instantly. Her skin became smooth again. Sleep now, I whispered to my unconscious sister. When you wake up tomorrow, all of this will be gone. Meanwhile, across town at the West Suburb Ironworks, Captain Gu Feifei arrived with a fleet of police cars. The moment she stepped inside the factory, the thick, metallic scent of blood and gunpowder hit her like a wall. She knew immediately that this was bad. She found the bodies scattered everywhere. Over a dozen men lay in the dirt, their forms riddled with bullet holes. Many were unrecognizable. A gang war, Gu Feifei muttered, her brow furrowing. It looked like a massacre. She knelt to examine the corpses and noticed something chilling. The men looked like they had been standing still when they were hit. There were no bullet holes in the walls or the equipment nearby. Every single shot had hit flesh. Even more unsettling were the expressions on their faces, frozen masks of pure, unadulterated terror. What could have possibly scared them that much before they died? Captain, an officer called out, running over. We've counted 16 victims. One of them is a known figure. Who? Zhou Feng. He's been Fu Yuanshan's right-hand man for years. He's a rank 8 martial artist. Gu Feifei's heart skipped a beat. A rank 8? She hurried to the body. It was him. She had seen him before. A man that powerful shouldn't have been killed this easily. Who could have done this? She whispered. A grandmaster? The situation was spiraling out of control. She ordered her team to process the scene while she headed back to the station. A bold thought took root in her mind. Everything happening to the Fu family lately pointed back to one person, Xiaochen. Have we found Xiaochen yet? She barked at her subordinates. How is the Fu family finding him faster than the police? We're working on it, Captain. He was gone for 10 years, so we're still mapping out his old connections. Gu Feifei paced the floor. It looks like the Fu family kidnapped someone to lure him here. Then Xiaochen showed up with a team and opened fire. But Captain, an officer interrupted. If there were 2 teams, why are there no bullet holes in the walls? And why are only the Fu family's men dead? That's what we need to find out, she snapped. Find Xiaochen. We need to know his grudge against Fujia, and get the forensics team to analyze the ballistics. This wasn't a normal shootout. While the police scrambled, the atmosphere inside the Fu family villa was suffocating. Fu Yuanshan paced the grand hall, his phone pressed to his ear. He had called Zhou Feng 20 times. No answer. Dad, relax, his eldest son, Fu Chao said. Fu Chao had rushed back from the family's corporate headquarters as soon as he heard about the trouble. Zhou Feng took a small army with him. They have the best weapons. Xiao Chun is a dead man. I have a bad feeling, Chao, Yuanshan said, his voice shaking. Zhou Feng has never gone silent like this. I fear he's gone. Listen to me. Take the family and leave. Go as far away as you can. Fu Chao scoffed. Aren't you being a bit paranoid? This villa is a fortress. No one is getting in here to kill us. You don't understand. Yuanshan shouted. If Xiaochen escaped Zhou Feng, it means he really is a grandmaster. Our family has no defense against the wrath of a grandmaster. Call the police. Tell them we need protection. If we can just survive the night. I've already paid a fortune to bring in Master Jiang to finish him. Fu Chao paused. He knew about Master Jiang. He had seen the man at a banquet once, a legendary figure treated like a god wherever he went. Master Jiang had been famous for decades. Surely, killing a young upstart like Xiao Chun would be child's play for a man of his stature. Fu Chao followed his father's orders and called the police. When Gu Feifei received the request for protection, she was stunned. The powerful Fu family was actually begging for help? It was a first, but the gravity of the situation hit her immediately. If I was really the one behind the killings, I would definitely head to their villa next. She didn't waste a second. She mobilized her team, ordering them to set an ambush at the Fu estate. Her goal was simple: arrest me the moment I showed my face. They didn't realize I was already moving through the night sky like a ghost. I arrived at the Fu family villa faster than any car could. The place was crawling with armed guards. Fu Yuanshan had called in every hired gun he could find to save his own skin. I didn't hesitate. I flew toward the villa, and the guards spotted me instantly. They didn't ask questions. They just opened fire, spraying bullets in my direction. Fu Yuanshan had given them a clear order: if a young man shows up alone, kill him on sight. Inside the villa, a dozen more men had their guns aimed at the front door. They were waiting to turn me into a pincushion. The silence inside was suffocating, broken only by the sound of heavy breathing and racing hearts. Then, they heard it, my footsteps approaching the door. Panic took over. Before they even saw me, they started firing wildly, the muzzle flashes lighting up the room. After the first round of gunfire died down, the heavy iron gate was riddled with holes. I didn't wait. I kicked the gate with a surge of power, sending the massive slab of metal flying inward. It smashed into several guards, leaving them screaming in agony. For the first time, the Fu family saw my face. They looked horrified. I was younger and more handsome than the monster they had imagined. "Xiao Chun, don't come any closer," Fu Yuanshan stammered. "You've already killed my son and so many of our people. If you leave now, we can forget all of this. We won't pursue it." I looked at him and smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. I flicked my right hand, and a wave of energy sliced through the air. A dozen guards screamed as their legs were severed clean off. "You chose to help a tyrant," I said coldly. "Spend the rest of your lives in bed." Internal energy projection. Killing from a distance. Someone gasped. "He really is a grandmaster." The Fu family collapsed. They knew they were trapped. The screams of the wounded echoed through the halls, making the survivors tremble. To them, I was a demon. The 10 guards who were still standing couldn't even hold their guns anymore. They were just there for a paycheck, not to die. They dropped their weapons and fell to their knees. "Please, great master. We're just employees. We have nothing to do with the Fu family. Spare us." I had no interest in killing people who weren't involved. "Get out," I growled. They scrambled to their feet, bowing in gratitude before sprinting for the exit. Fu Chao watched his protection vanish and felt the cold grip of despair. He crawled toward me, sobbing. "Master, please. Kidnapping your sister was all my father's idea. I had nothing to do with it. Honestly, I hated Fu Jie anyway. I'm glad he's dead." He started swearing oaths to disown his family if I just let him live. "Fu Chao, you animal." Fu Yuanshan roared, his face red with shame. How did I raise such a spineless son? I didn't want to hear another word. I raised my hand, and a streak of golden light pierced Fu Chao's forehead. His eyes stayed wide as his body slumped to the floor. "I told you," I said, looking at the rest of them. "If you touch the people I care about, I wouldn't let it go. Why didn't you listen? You tried to kill my sister. You brought this on yourselves." Fu Yuanshan stared at his last son's body, his mind snapping. "You're dead, Xiao Chun. I'll kill you. I'll kill your whole family." He laughed like a madman, fueled by pure hatred. His words only made my resolve harder. Just as I was about to end him, the wail of police sirens drifted up from the base of the hill. Fu Yuanshan's eyes lit up. "The police are here. You wouldn't dare kill me in front of them. If I survive tonight, the master I hired will arrive, and everyone you know will die." I leaned in close. "You still don't get it, do you? It doesn't matter if the police are here. It doesn't matter if you hire every grandmaster in the country. Your life belongs to me." I turned my back on them and walked toward the exit. Behind me, the fallen guns on the floor began to float. They hovered in the air, muzzles pointing directly at the Fu family. They screamed for help, but it was too late. As I stepped out of the villa, the house erupted in gunfire. Screams filled the air, then silence. Gu Feifei and her team reached the villa just as the noise stopped. "Speed up," she shouted. "We aren't dealing with a normal person today." As she jumped out of her car, she caught a glimpse of a figure disappearing into the thick forest. It was just a silhouette, but it was a sight she would never forget. "Did you see that?" she asked her team. "Was there someone there?" "No, Captain," they replied. "The shooting stopped. Should we go in?" She wondered if her eyes were playing tricks on her. Inside, the scene was a nightmare. Even the veteran officers were shaken. New recruits were vomiting at the sight of the severed limbs and the carnage. In the center of the hall, the leaders of the Fu family lay dead, their bodies riddled with the very bullets they had bought for their own protection. Gu Feifei immediately connected the dots. The carnage at the Fu villa was identical to the slaughter at the Western Steel factory. It had to be the same person. She rushed over to a bodyguard whose legs had been severed cleanly at the thighs. Blood pooled around him, but he was still conscious, his eyes wide with the terror I had left behind. "Who did this?" she demanded, grabbing his shoulder. "Tell me what happened." The man didn't see her. He stared at the ceiling, screaming at the top of his lungs. "A ghost. He's a ghost. An immortal. Please, don't kill me. Don't kill me." He had lost his mind. My display of power had shattered his sanity completely. Gu Feifei gritted her teeth, her frustration boiling over. She ordered her team to send everyone to the hospital for interrogation. She didn't believe that every single witness had gone insane. She also ordered a total media blackout. If news of a prominent family being wiped out leaked, her career as a captain was finished. The next morning, the storm hit. Lu Jinghua, the head of the Tianhai Police Bureau, burst into Gu Feifei's office. He slammed his hand onto her desk so hard the pens rattled. He was furious. "Captain Gu," he roared. "Tell me, what did I do wrong to deserve this? I'm about to retire. Are you trying to send me to an early grave instead of a retirement party?" Gu Feifei stood up quickly, her face pale. "I'm sorry, Director Lu. I promise I'll catch the killer as soon as possible. Don't you dare say sorry to me." Lu Jinghua shouted, his voice cracking. "I should be saying sorry to you. Please, I'm begging you. Just catch him. An entire family was exterminated on my watch. I just wanted to go fishing and live a quiet life. Don't do this to me." He took a breath, trying to steady himself. This wasn't just about us. If this wasn't handled, the entire high-level administration of Tianhai City would be purged. Not even the top officials would survive the fallout. He sighed, looking defeated, and walked out without another word. Meanwhile, at the Tang family villa, Xinyan was being stubborn. Yesterday's trauma had left her shaken. She refused to go to school and kept cornering Tang Xiao, demanding to know how she got home. She remembered the guns. She remembered the men waiting for me. She remembered being knocked out. But she woke up in her own bed, her face no longer hurting, as if the kidnapping had been a dream. Xiao had no choice but to lie. She told Xinyan that she had called the police immediately and they had rescued her. Since Xinyan wouldn't go to school, Xiao went alone to handle the leave of absence. Xinyan decided to follow me to the Zurenhal pharmacy instead. She tried to help me with everything, but she was so restless she ended up making a mess of the medicine shelves. Luckily, Xiaoyun liked her and patiently taught her the ropes. Suddenly, a stir went through the clinic. "Master E is here," someone called out. I looked toward the door. A white-haired man with a long beard stepped out of a car, carrying a traditional medicine chest. He had a kind, serene face. This was Yi Zhongfeng, and Xiaoyun ran to him, beaming, and took his bag. "Master Yi, are you seeing patients today?" she asked. "Your appointments are booked through next year." He chuckled and shook his head. "No, not today. Today, I want to discuss a specific case with all of you. I want to see if you young people have any fresh perspectives." The students and staff were ecstatic. If Master Yi wanted to discuss a case, it had to be something extraordinary. Lubo quickly hung a sign on the door, closed for internal study. Yi Zhongfeng was one of the oldest and most respected traditional Chinese medicine masters in the country. People said if he shook his head at a diagnosis, the patient was as good as dead. We all gathered around him with notebooks in hand. Even I sat down. I wanted to hear what kind of illness could stump a man of his stature. Master Yi looked troubled. "The patient is a man in his 60s, he began. "He spent his youth in the military, a hero who bled for this country. I want to cure him more than anything. But I've searched every record and tried every method. Even the most advanced hospital equipment shows nothing." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "The symptoms are strange. He is often incoherent, slipping into semi-comatose states. At night, he suffers from agonizing headaches and hallucinations. He claims there are unclean things in his room. This has gone on for 3 months. We've tried everything, even bringing in specialists from other fields. Nothing works." He explained that the man had just retired from a massive position in the government and moved to the scenic Tianhai City to spend his final years in peace. Instead, he found this nightmare. If we don't find the cause, Master Yi sighed, he won't last more than 2 weeks. The room went silent. Everyone realized who he was talking about, Mu Changming. He was a marshal of the military, a legend who had protected our borders for decades. To see such a hero suffer like this broke everyone's heart. Xiao Yun's eyes turned red. Is there really no other way? She whispered. Marshal Mu can't die. He's the soul of our army. Master Yi stood up, looking older than he had minutes ago. Unless an immortal descends from the heavens, I am powerless. I've decided that after this, I will wash my hands of medicine. I will no longer see patients. I call myself a sacred hand, but I don't deserve the title. I have no face left to keep it. Master Yi sighed, his eyes distant. He told the room he only wanted to pursue the highest levels of Chinese medicine now, hoping to train a few talents to keep the ancient traditions alive. The room erupted in whispers. If he retired, 2 of the 4 greatest medical masters in the country would be gone. It was a massive loss for every patient in the land. I stood in the back, thinking about Marshal Mu. I had idolized him since I was a kid. It was hard to believe he had reached retirement age, let alone that he was dying. I ran his symptoms through my head. If I wasn't mistaken, this wasn't a normal illness. He had been poisoned, or worse, someone was using dark arts on him. I couldn't be sure without seeing him in person. I stood up. Take me to see him, I said. The room went dead silent. Everyone turned to look at me. Xinyan tugged at my sleeve, her eyes wide with shock. Brother, you know how to practice medicine? Since when? I've learned a few things, I whispered back. Master Yi looked at me, his brow furrowed. And this young man is? Old Lu stepped forward, looking embarrassed. Master Yi, this is Xiao Chun. He's just a new apprentice at the clinic. An apprentice? The doctors in the room started laughing. They told me the marshal wasn't someone a random kid could just go visit. I didn't flinch. I looked Master Yi in the eye and told him I had studied under a master years ago. I told him straight out that based on the symptoms, the marshal was likely poisoned. Master Yi shook his head. Young man, we've checked for toxins. There isn't a trace of poison in his system. How do you explain that? The world is full of rare toxins, I replied. Colorless, odorless, invisible. There are ancient curses and dark arts that leave no trace. Do you really believe you've seen everything there is to see? Old Lu panicked. He started scolding me for being disrespectful, but Master Yi raised a hand to stop him. He looked at me with a new intensity. He saw the confidence in my eyes, an aura that felt like a king who feared nothing. He admitted that my points were valid, but he was still hesitant. Taking a stranger to see a national hero was a massive risk. If I messed up, his reputation would be destroyed, and we'd both face the consequences. Xiaoyan stepped in to defend me. She told them how I had saved a girl the day before just by looking at her. But I was tired of the back and forth. Xiaoyun, don't bother, I said, turning toward the door. It's not my life on the line. I only offered because I respect the marshal. Let's go, Xinyan. We have shopping to do. Xinyan followed me, confused but trusting. As I passed the medicine counter, a roll of silver needles caught my eye. I decided to give them a little nudge. If they wanted my help, they were going to have to ask for it. I raised my right hand. I didn't touch the needles. I didn't even get close. But the silver needles began to vibrate. Slowly, they rose out of the cloth, hovering steadily above my open palm. Master Yi's jaw dropped. Controlling needles with qi, he stammered. It can't be. With a flick of my wrist, the needles hissed through the air. They slammed into a wooden medical dummy across the hall, each one embedding itself perfectly into a different acupoint. They were exactly 3 inches deep. Not a hair more, not a hair less. Master Yi rushed over to the dummy, his hands shaking. The 9 yang soul-returning needles. This technique was lost centuries ago. Who are you? I didn't answer. I just kept walking. Behind me, Master Yi was in a frenzy. He even pulled out a heart pill and swallowed it just to keep from collapsing from the excitement. He knew the marshal had a chance now. He turned to Xiaoyun, his eyes gleaming. He suddenly offered to take her as his official disciple on the spot, desperate to find any way to stay connected to me. He knew he had just witnessed a miracle. You have great talent, Master Yi told Mu Yun, his voice thick with newfound respect. I hope you achieve great things in the field of Chinese medicine. Thank you, Master. Mu Yun replied, bowing deeply. I won't let you down. Mastery waved a hand, looking a bit embarrassed. Just call me teacher. Calling me master sounds strange in this day and age. Mu Yun grinned. Yes, teacher. Standing nearby, Fang Qixing couldn't contain himself anymore. He gathered his courage and dropped to his knees in front of Master Yi. Master Yi, I want to be your disciple too. Please, take me in. Master Yi sighed, shaking his head. I haven't taken a disciple in over 10 years. Dealing with Mu Yun is already going to give me a headache. Don't add to the chaos. Besides, you're at an age where your habits are set in stone. Learning my ways now would only lead you astray. Just come to my lectures occasionally. Fang Qixing slumped like a deflated balloon. He looked at Mu Yun with pure envy. Being Master Yi's disciple meant her future was set. She would never have to worry about money or status again. Mu Yun, Master Yi said, his expression turning serious. Your only job right now is to keep an eye on Xiaoqun for me. I need to head out. If he returns, notify me immediately. Do you understand? Yes, teacher. I'll watch him closely, she promised. Master Yi didn't waste a second. He hurried out of the clinic and into his private car. As soon as the door closed, he dialed a number, his hands trembling with excitement. Old Mu, there's hope. I found a way to save you. I'll explain everything when I arrive. While the medical world was in an uproar, I was elsewhere. I had taken Xinyan to a local amusement park. Standing at the gates, it felt like we had stepped back into our childhood. Brother, you promised to take me here 10 years ago, Xinyan said, a playful pout on her face. I can't believe you made me wait this long. Today, you're staying until we ride everything. I laughed, ruffling her hair. Fine, fine. We'll play until we can't walk. Meanwhile, at the Tianhai police headquarters, Captain Gu Feifei was losing her mind. She had been scouring the city for any trace of me. Captain, we found something, an officer shouted, running into her office. Xiaoqun has a younger sister, Xiao Xinyan. She's a student at Tianhai First High. She was classmates with Fu Jie. It turns out Fu Jie was obsessed with her. That's where the conflict started. Gu Feifei leaned over the files. Go on. The survivors from the Fu family confessed. Only one person attacked the villa. It was Xiaoqun. Gu Feifei's eyes narrowed as she connected the dots. So, Fu Jie tried to hurt the sister. Xiaoqun killed Fu Jie in retaliation. Then, Fu Yuanshan kidnapped the girl to lure him out. Instead, Xiaoqun wiped out everyone at the steel plant, and then finished off the entire Fu family alone. That seems to be exactly what happened, Captain. Suddenly, another officer burst in. Captain, the city surveillance system just flagged him. Xiaoqun is at the downtown amusement park right now. What? Gu Feifei slammed her desk. That bastard. We've been hunting him for days, and he's out having a public playday? Deploy everyone. Call in the SWAT teams. Tell them this man is extremely dangerous, a cold-blooded demon. Do not let your guard down. But I want him alive. Back at the park, I was oblivious to the sirens. Xinyan and I were sitting on the carousel, each holding a melting ice cream cone. Watching her laugh made me feel a sense of peace I hadn't known in years. But the peace didn't last. I noticed the crowds thinning out. The happy chatter died down. The park was becoming unnervingly quiet. I closed my eyes for a second, spreading my spiritual sense across the area. I felt a cold smile tug at my lips. Took them long enough, I muttered. The person in charge of this city is a bit slow. The park was being surrounded. Police cars blocked every exit. Drones hovered overhead, their cameras locked on me. I could feel the glint of sniper scopes from the nearby rooftops. Brother? Why did everyone leave? Xinyan asked, looking around nervously. It was so crowded a minute ago. It's okay, Xinyan, I said, my voice calm. No matter what happens, don't be afraid. I'm right here. Oh, okay, she whispered, clutching my sleeve. Let's go, I said, stepping off the ride. I don't think we can finish the rides today. I'll bring you back another time. High above, the drones lowered themselves toward us. A voice boomed from the speakers. Xiaoqun, you are surrounded. Drop your weapons and surrender immediately. If you cooperate, we may show leniency. I looked at the half-eaten ice cream in my hand. Is this a weapon now? Brother, are the police coming for you? Xinyan's voice trembled. Don't worry. You saw what I can do, right? I'm just going to go have a chat at the station. I'll be home by dinner. I promise. She looked at me, confused. She knew I had killed people, and she knew people didn't just walk out of police stations for that. But she chose to believe me anyway. I looked up at the drones, my gaze turning sharp. "Don't scare my sister," I said coldly. "Send someone who actually makes the decisions to talk to me." I didn't move a muscle, but I released a burst of intent. The drones suddenly sparked and exploded in midair, falling like flaming debris. The loud bangs sent a shockwave of fear through the hidden police lines. The officers were terrified. They had been told they were hunting a monster, the man who single-handedly wiped out the Fu family. The Fu family wasn't the strongest in the city, but they had money, guns, and martial arts experts. Yet this one man had erased them. Every rustle of the wind made the officers' fingers itch on their triggers. Gu Feifei took a deep breath and stepped out from behind a police cruiser. She was dressed in black casual clothes, her face set in a mask of determination. She began walking toward me, followed by a few of her bravest officers. "Captain, should we really just walk up to him?" One officer whispered, his voice shaking. "He's a killing god." "What are you afraid of?" she snapped, though her own heart was racing. "We have snipers and hundreds of men. He wouldn't dare." As she got closer, Gu Feifei stopped in her tracks. She stared at me, her brow furrowing. I didn't look like the bloodthirsty criminal she had imagined. I just looked like a brother protecting his sister. I had seen old photos of myself before I left, but they were years out of date. They didn't show the man I had become. Standing there in the sunlight, smiling at my sister, I looked like a completely different person, a kind, handsome, protective older brother. Captain Gu Feifei stopped and blinked. She looked back at her team, her brow furrowing in genuine confusion. "Are we sure we have the right guy?" she whispered. "Captain, I'm 100% sure," one of the officers replied, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. "That's Xiao Chun. But, man, he's actually good-looking. It's hard to imagine him as a cold-blooded demon." "Stay professional," Gu Feifei snapped, trying to regain her composure. "You can't judge a book by its cover. Plenty of monsters look like gentlemen." She stepped forward, keeping her hand near her weapon. "You're Xiao Chun, right?" I met her eyes and nodded calmly. "That's me. I know why you're here." I didn't give her a chance to go through a scripted arrest. "Send someone to take my sister home safely. After that, I'll come to the station with you. I don't have much else to do this afternoon anyway." Gu Feifei stared at me like I had grown a second head. "You think you're just going for a stroll? Kid, you're the most arrogant criminal I've ever met. I've been a cop for years and seen some nasty pieces of work, but you're the first one to be this relaxed while surrounded." "Captain," one of her men whispered, leaning in. "Is he planning something? Why is he giving up so easily?" Gu Feifei hesitated. She was wondering the same thing. What kind of leverage did I have to be this calm? But then she shook it off. If she could bring me in without firing a single bullet or losing a single man, it would be the highlight of her career. "Fine," she said. "I'll agree to your terms. But you have to wear handcuffs." "Fair enough," I said. I smiled and held out my hands. She took a breath, stepped forward, and clicked the metal cuffs onto my wrists. She seemed nervous, so she didn't stop at one pair. She called over another officer and had them pile more on. By the time they were done, my wrists were weighed down by 5 sets of heavy-duty handcuffs. Gu Feifei finally let out a triumphant smirk. "You arrogant bastard. You're finally in my hands. Men, get Xiao Xinyan home." "Brother, no." Xinyan cried out, her voice breaking. She tried to reach for me. "I'm not leaving. I'm going to the station with you." I raised my shackled hands and gently wiped the tears from her eyes. "Don't worry, Xinyan. Go home and wait for me. I'm going because I want to. If I don't settle things with these police officers now, they'll never stop bothering us. I need to clear this up so we can live in peace." "Really?" she asked, sniffing. "You promise?" "I promise. I'll be back for dinner. If I'm not, you can come down to the station and demand they let me go." The officers watched us, feeling a strange sense of conflict. I didn't look like a killer. I looked like a man who adored his sister. Most of them figured that once I walked into that station, I was never coming out again. I watched the police car carrying Xinyan disappear around the corner. Only then did I turn back to Gu Feifei. "Let's go. And make sure the station has some coffee ready. I don't like it too sweet." Gu Feifei actually laughed at the sheer audacity. "You think you're going to a cafe? You're in my world now. You want coffee? Maybe I should brew it for you myself." "Can you?" I asked. "I'd appreciate that." She ignored me, frustrated by my lack of fear. She sat directly across from me in the police van, her eyes locked on mine. She wasn't taking any chances. To her, I was a promotion waiting to happen. Once we reached the station, she threw me straight into the interrogation room. I sat there, perfectly still, waiting. I knew Changfeng had already sent word to the Mu family about my ability to heal Elder Mu. With their influence in this country, getting me out of a place like this would be child's play. My goal wasn't just to escape. It was to get this Captain Gu off my back for good. I'm talking to you. Gu Feifei slammed her hand on the table. Are you deaf? Don't think your face will save you here. Tell me everything. How did you slaughter Fu Jie and the rest of the Fu family? If you confess now, I might speak to the judge for you. I leaned back as much as the 5 sets of cuffs would allow. Which of your eyes saw me kill them? Don't go making accusations without evidence, Captain. You think you can play tough? She hissed. We have enough evidence to bury you regardless of what you say. How long can you keep this act up? Where's that coffee, Captain? I'm thirsty. She turned red, speechless with rage. She felt like she was losing a game she hadn't even realized she was playing. Fine. Lock him up. Don't even give him a drop of water. She stormed out of the room and headed to her office to figure out a new tactic. Meanwhile, the chief of police, Lu Jinghua, was in his own office sipping tea. He was feeling great. Solving a high-profile massacre like the Fu family case was the perfect way to end his career before retirement. Then his phone rang. It was the top official in the city. Mr. Mayor, Lu Jinghua said, smiling. I assume you've heard the good news? Whatever the mayor said on the other end made the smile vanish instantly. Lu Jinghua's face went pale. He dropped the phone and sprinted toward Gu Feifei's office, nearly tripping over his own feet. Gu Feifei, he screamed, bursting through her door. Are you trying to kill me? Do you want my job that badly? Gu Feifei jumped. Chief, what's wrong? Who did you arrest today? He barked, his chest heaving. The mayor just called me personally demanding his release. The Mu family is on their way here right now. My heart, give me my pills. Fast. Gu Feifei scrambled to get his medicine, her mind racing. Chief, I only arrested one person. The killer who wiped out the Fu family. We can't just let him go. What killer? Lu Jinghua roared after swallowing his pill. The Fu family died because of internal power struggles. They killed each other over money. That's the official report. Now go release that man before you ruin us both. But Chief, we have leads. It's obvious it was him. Evidence. Do you have a single shred of hard evidence? The chief yelled. You have suspicions. That's it. How could one man kill dozens of armed guards anyway? It's impossible. Now move. Release him. Who would believe one man could take down the entire Fu family and their armed guards alone? I didn't care what the rumors said, but Chief Lu Jinghua was losing his mind. He told Gu Feifei that the mayor himself had called. The Mu family was already on their way. These were people we couldn't afford to offend, people even the mayor bowed to. Just release him, the chief roared. Treat him like royalty. I'm going to the gate to welcome the Mu family myself. He stormed out, leaving Gu Feifei fuming. She was beyond frustrated. She couldn't believe my background was that powerful. She ordered a subordinate to let me go, but she wasn't happy about it. I was sitting in the interrogation room, meditating. I knew exactly what was happening outside. When the officer opened the door and told me I was free to go, provided I stayed in the city for questioning, I didn't move. I opened my eyes and flashed a smile. Tell Captain Gu that if she wants me out, she has to come invite me herself, I said calmly. And I'd like a coffee. Tell her to add extra sugar. I don't like it bitter. The officer nearly exploded. He told me not to push my luck, but I just sat there, unbothered. When he went back and reported my demands, Gu Feifei lost it. She grabbed her police baton, her face twisted with rage. She told her officers to stay outside and ignore any noise they heard. She wanted to teach me a lesson before letting me walk. She burst into the room and locked the door behind her. I was still sitting there, my hands bound by 5 sets of heavy-duty alloy handcuffs. You're pretty arrogant, aren't you? She sneered, slapping the baton against her palm. Captain Gu, let's talk this out, I said, a small smirk playing on my lips. Don't start something you'll regret. You might end up crying. We'll see who cries, she barked. I held up my hands. The quality of your equipment is honestly disappointing. I flexed my wrists. With a sharp metallic crack, All 5 sets of handcuffs shattered into pieces. Gu Feifei froze. Those cuffs were made of high-strength alloy. Even a pair of bulls shouldn't have been able to snap one, let alone 5. Destroying police property? That's another few months added to your sentence, she screamed, lunging at me with the baton. She aimed for the fleshy parts of my body, but she never connected. Before the baton could touch me, a wave of internal energy surged from my skin. The impact sent a shockwave up her arm, numbing her entire hand. I moved faster than her eyes could follow, snatching the baton right out of her grip. "What are you doing?" she stammered, backing away. "Attacking an officer is a major crime." She realized she was in over her head and tried to bolt for the door. I didn't give her the chance. I wanted her to stop breathing down my neck once and for all. I blurred across the room, caught her from behind, and flipped her over my knee. Whack! I brought the baton down hard right where it hurt the most. Xiaochun, you dare hit me there. I'll kill you," she screamed. "Help! Someone help me!" Asterisk whack. 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 Asterisk. I didn't stop. "Are you going to keep causing me trouble?" Whack. "Are you going to keep following me?" Whack. "From now on, when you see me, you call me boss. Understand?" "Stop. Please stop," she wailed, tears streaming down her face. "I got it. You're the boss. I won't follow you anymore. Just stop." I tossed the baton aside and let her go. "Good. Now go brew that coffee." She limped out of the room, clutching her backside and wiping her eyes. Her subordinates rushed over, asking why she was injured if she was the one doing the beating. She snapped at them, furious that they hadn't ignored her earlier orders and come in to save her. I walked out a moment later, a satisfied grin on my face. I walked straight into her office, sat in her chair, and propped my feet up on the desk. "Captain Gu, coffee. Sugar. Thanks," I called out. Before anyone could react to my boldness, heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Wang De, the head of the powerful Wang family, marched in. He looked livid. Chief Lu was trailing behind him like a scared puppy. "Where is young Master Chun?" Wang De shouted, his eyes scanning the room frantically. "Lu Xinghua, you've grown old and senile. You have no idea who you've arrested." Gu Feifei stared in shock. First the mayor, then the Mu family, and now the Wangs? Everyone was coming for me. Then, her eyes landed on a familiar figure entering the station. Wang De recognized me immediately. I was still sitting in the captain's office with my legs crossed, looking like I owned the place. He didn't look angry, though. Instead, a huge smile broke out across his face. He hurried toward me, bowing slightly. "Young Master Chun, I found you at last," he said respectfully. I glanced at him. "Head of the Wang family, I didn't expect you to be the first one here. How did you know where I was?" "I've spent a lot of effort looking for you, young master," Wang Do explained, sounding relieved. "You're a hard man to find. If my contact at the station hadn't reported your arrest, I still wouldn't know where you were." I nodded slowly. "You're quite attentive. So, why were you looking for me?" "I've followed your instructions," he said eagerly. "The cemetery has been preserved. In fact, I sent men to repair and renovate the entire grounds. I know we had our misunderstandings before." He reached into his coat and pulled out a sleek black bank card, pressing it into my hand. "This is just a small token of my sincerity. I hope a man of your stature can overlook my past mistakes. From now on, the Wang family stands behind you." I looked at the card, then back at him. I knew what he was doing. He had seen my strength and wanted to hitch his wagon to mine. Fine. Every powerful man needs someone to handle the errands and legwork. "Master Wang, you're a smart man," I said. "One day, you'll be very proud of the decision you made today." Wang De beamed. He was ecstatic. With just a bit of smooth talking and 200 million, a drop in the bucket for him, he had secured an alliance with a grandmaster. "Should I arrange for someone to take you home now, young master?" he asked. "Not yet," I replied. "Wait a bit. Stand behind me and wait." He looked confused but did exactly as he was told. I turned my attention back to the door. "Captain Gu, is my coffee ready yet?" Gu Feifei was standing nearby. Her backside was still throbbing with pain, but with all these heavy hitters in the room, she didn't dare sit down. She grit her teeth so hard I thought they might snap. She was clearly fantasizing about the day she could get her revenge and beat me twice as hard as I'd hit her. "Captain Gu, what are you waiting for?" Chief Lu barked. "Go make the coffee." She didn't have a choice. Refusing now would humiliate her boss in front of the city's elite. She limped toward the break room, her face twisted in a grimace. I watched her go, knowing she was probably cursing my ancestors. Inside the break room, she grabbed a handful of sugar and dumped it into the cup. Fine, drink it. I hope it kills you, she muttered. Just as she was finishing, heavy, rhythmic footsteps echoed from the hallway. A man in his 40s entered, wearing a sharp black suit. He walked with the rigid posture of a career soldier. 3 or 4 men followed him, all radiating a powerful aura. Chief Liu and Wangda both froze. Then, they practically ran to greet him. General Mu. Welcome, sir. The officers in the station gasped. Mu Yang, a 3-star general, a man they usually only saw on the news, a true pillar of the nation, was standing in their lobby. Gu Feifei forgot her pain for a second and snapped to attention, standing as straight as a board. No need for formalities, Chief Liu, Mu Yang said calmly. I'm sorry to interrupt your work. He looked at Wangda with a questioning gaze. And this is? General Mu, I am Wangda. My son, Wang Sahan, serves under your command. Thank you for taking care of him. Ah, the Wang family, Mu Yang nodded. My father just moved to Tianhai, so we'll be relying on locals like you. Sahan is a good lad. He has a bright future. Wangda looked like he'd just won the lottery. Now, to business, Mu Yang said, turning to the chief. Where is he? Lu Jingguo pointed toward the office. Mu Yang looked over and frowned when he saw me. I looked too young. He probably thought this Mr. E had been scammed. The rest of the room was in shock. First the Wangs, now a general? Who was I? Wangda felt a surge of pride that he'd gotten to me first. If he'd waited, I probably wouldn't have even looked at him. I stood up. I respected men like Mu Yang, so I decided not to push it too far. I walked over to Gu Feifei, took the coffee from her hands, and smiled. Thanks for the coffee, Captain. If it's good, I'll have to come back for more. Don't get cocky, she whispered back. I hope you choke on it. Mr. Xiao, Mu Yang said, stepping forward. I am Mu Yang. I'd like to invite you to the Mu residence for a talk. He couldn't mention his father's illness here. It was a state secret. Take me home first, I said. I need to prepare some things and get some rest. Come pick me up tomorrow morning. One of the older men behind the general stepped forward, his face darkening. Kid, do you have any idea who you're talking to? I didn't say a word. I just glared at him. The old man was suddenly thrown back several meters as if hit by an invisible truck. He hit the floor and coughed up a mouthful of blood. Elder Zhou, Mu Yang cried out. Are you all right? I'm fine. The old man wheezed, looking at me with pure terror. General, he's the real deal. That single look. His strength is beyond a grandmaster. He might actually be able to save the old master. Mu Yang was stunned. Elder Zhou had been his father's brother-in-arms for decades. He was a powerhouse, yet I had injured him with a single glance. I wasn't in the mood for games. They wanted my help, yet they showed up late and acted arrogant. I didn't care if he was a general or a marshal. I gave respect only when it was earned. Right now, my priority was letting my sister know I was safe. I'm sorry, Mr. Xiao, Mu Yang said quickly, bowing his head. I apologize for Elder Zhou. We will take you home immediately and return for you tomorrow. That's better, I said. But I don't want your men to drive me. I want her. I pointed at Gu Feifei. She was hiding at the back of the crowd, still rubbing her sore backside and cursing me under her breath. When she realized everyone was staring at her, she blinked. What? Why are you all looking at me? Captain Gu, stop hiding, the chief yelled. Get the car and take Mr. Xiao home. A few minutes later, I was sitting in a pink Honda. The interior was covered in cute trinkets and smelled like flowers. It was a hilarious contrast to her personality. Captain Gu, I didn't realize you were so girly, I teased. Under that savage exterior is a heart of gold, huh? Shut up and don't touch my stuff, she snapped. Just give me directions. I need to see a doctor after this. My stomach growled. Actually, I've been busy all afternoon and haven't eaten. You should buy me dinner. What? She screamed. Xiao Chen, don't push your luck. I haven't even settled the score for you hitting me yet, and you want me to buy you food? In your dreams. I leaned back and smirked. You sure? Because if you won't, I might have to call those guys in the SUVs behind us and ask them for a meal instead. Gu Feifei glanced in her rearview mirror. Her face went pale. Those military SUVs were still there, trailing us like a silent, armored shadow. She realized I wasn't joking. "You're a jerk, Xiao Chun," she muttered, gripping the steering wheel. "Fine. What do you want to eat? I don't have much money. At most, I can buy you some fried rice. Maybe I'll splurge and add 2 eggs." I smiled and pointed out the window at a towering, glittering building nearby. "That place looks decent. Let's go there." Gu Feifei nearly choked. "The Grand Pavilion? Are you a demon sent from heaven to torture me? That's the most expensive hotel in the city. One meal there would cost my entire month's salary. Please, just let me go." She was completely defeated. The fearless Captain Gu seemed to lose all her fire whenever she was around me. "The Grand Pavilion it is," I said firmly. "Don't dawdle. Or should I call Chief Liu and tell him you're being difficult?" "Fine. Eat until you explode for all I care," she snapped. She swerved her pink Honda into the hotel lot. It looked ridiculous parked next to the rows of Ferraris and Lamborghinis. The doormen didn't even bother hiding their disdain. They looked at my casual clothes and her tiny car, their eyes screaming that we didn't belong. Then the roar of engines shook the pavement. The military SUVs pulled up in a perfect line surrounding the entrance. A dozen armed soldiers jumped out, rifles in hand, forming a perimeter. Mu Yang and the old man I'd injured stepped out of their vehicle. They didn't look angry. They looked humble. "Mr. Xiao, are you here for dinner?" Mu Yang asked with a respectful bow. "Please, after you. We haven't eaten either." A luxury Bentley pulled up seconds later. Wangda stepped out, rushing toward me with the same reverent expression. He insisted on joining us. The hotel staff stood frozen. They could dismiss me, but they knew these men. They thought the military guys were impressive, but then they saw Wangda. He was the owner of the Grand Pavilion and the head of the powerful Wang family. These employees usually only saw low-level managers, yet here was the patriarch himself, acting like a servant to a man in a pink car. They watched in shock as Wangda stayed half a step behind me, giving me the lead. Even the mayor didn't get this kind of treatment. The waitresses began to question reality. Who was I? How could I make a military general and a billionaire act like bodyguards? Where is the manager? Wangda's voice boomed, cold and authoritative. "I am hosting a guest of the highest honor today. If a single thing goes wrong, you're all fired." The staff nearly tripped over themselves. "Sir, the manager is on the 3rd floor with some VIPs. We'll get him immediately. I don't care about other VIPs." Wangda barked. "Even if the King of Heaven is here, he isn't as important as my guest. Get the best room and the finest wine." Now, we were ushered to a massive, opulent private suite on the 3rd floor. I sat down and looked at Gu Feifei. She was fidgeting, looking like she wanted to bolt for the door. "Xiao Chun," she whispered, leaning in close. "Don't order too much. I'm serious. I really can't afford this." I patted the seat next to me, signaling for her to sit. Mu Yang and Elder Zhou took their spots across from us. As we chatted, I could feel Mu Yang studying me. He had spent his life in the military, surrounded by power and blood, yet he looked confused. Usually, young men trembled in his presence. But I sat there with a calm that bordered on arrogance. I looked at the world like it was beneath me. To a soldier like him, that kind of pressure was terrifying. It was the aura of someone who had already won before the fight even started. Elder Zhou felt it too, a kingly, invincible presence that made them feel like ants. While we sat there, the hotel manager, a woman named Bai Wei, was in the next room. She was serving a group of wealthy young heirs from the city's elite families. She was famous for her high social IQ, which was how she'd landed this job at such a young age. A waiter burst in and whispered in her ear, "Manager, President Wang is here. He's in the suite next door." Bai Wei's heart skipped a beat. "President Wang? The big boss?" "Yes," the waiter hissed. "He's hosting a supreme guest. He said if anything is less than perfect, we're all out of a job." "What are you two whispering about?" one of the young heirs shouted, slamming his glass down. "Manager Bai, get over here and pour more wine. My friend just got here from the capital. If you don't entertain him properly, I'll have your head." Bai Wei forced a smile, her mind racing. "Young Masterly, I am so sorry. I've suddenly fallen ill. I need to step out for a moment, but I'll send my best girls to look after you." "Always something with you," Li grumbled. "Go on then. But hurry back. This $100,000 wine tastes like water when you aren't the one pouring it. Baiwei didn't wait. She scrambled out the door, desperate to see who was important enough to make her boss tremble.